Middlekauff, baby, hey! What's up, everybody? Welcome. We are live on YouTube on Monday night. I'm Guy. That is John. If you're watching on YouTube live, it's great to have you. Hit that like button. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We appreciate it. If you are listening to this podcast, we appreciate that a ton. Hit us with a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. We love when you do that. That helps out the show. Comment for the algo on the YouTube. And yeah, let's have a great week, everybody. Good way to start the week, Monday night.
Guys, some might think this is a celebration podcast because the 49ers won. But we're independent journalists, and we don't root for anyone, even though, you know, them winning is better. But, you know, listen, we can take the emotion out of it. We just let the chips fall as they may. This is a celebration week because it's Haberman and Middlekauff's birthday week, guys.
Birthday week, baby.
31.
That's right.
I've been telling I was 35 for about 7 years now.
Yeah, when people ask now, I just say 32.
Is it Haberman's birthday in about 4 hours?
Yeah, actually. Yeah. And we're
it's
what?
a good 48-hour stretch coming up.
52 from you?
Yeah, just, I mean, it's a good week, guy. Happy birthday. Happy birthday, guy.
That's a happy birthday, John. Thank you. Thanks for all of John's birthday wishes to me. That's right.
Birthday week. Two guys that combined ages are 63.
Birthday week's always a good week here on the show.
Have you been telling people I guess you turned 37 like you've been 34? Like when people ask, you say your normal age? Or have you ever lied?
Yeah, I say my normal age unless I can say, but yeah, it's not important. Here's the point. You know, something like that, you know. Well, how old are you?
I've lied. I've lied the last probably year and a half before.
I have forgotten over the years at times. If someone asks, sometimes I have to think about it. That's how little age means to me, John.
When I hit 36, I said 34 several times, just random people over that, you know, probably year period. It didn't mean that much. It wasn't like a serious. It was, 34.
Right. Just dating.
Like, damn, you look young. I was like, yeah, thanks.
College parties.
40's the new 22.
Yeah. Yeah.
Someone said to me the other day, you're closer to 50 than you are 30, which is a lie. You're 37. I'm 38 here in a day and 2 days. But I got furious. I snapped. And then I realized it wasn't even true. But at first I kind of believed it in my own head and it freaked me out.
You know what I thought about yesterday, actually, is that the year 2000 to us is what the year 1970 was to people in 1992.
I don't like thinking about stuff like that because the older you get, do you notice you think about stuff like that?
Yeah. Yeah.
You go, this is the equivalent of like 1973 for my dad when it was like, it starts throwing you off and it makes you very uncomfortable.
All right. But we're here to live in the moment, John. Every day, one at a time. Carl just gave us $25 as an early birthday gift. So
I get you, you know, half a salad in Danville.
It'll get you Tito's and soda. That'll get you Tito's and soda, John, in the right spot. We are sponsored by our friends at Tito's Handmade Vodka. They're going to help make birthday week here on the pod go well. We are big fans. We know you are big fans. You keep sending us photos of you enjoying your Tito's beverages. And John, I do have to tell you that right now, when you go to not that Tito's has told us to push the website. They just want people to consume responsibly, but you can find recipes for spectacular cocktails to mix up this Halloween. Things like the Tito's Mystic Mule or the Tito's Witching Hour or the Tito's Harvest Moon or the Smoky Spirit. So go check out some recipes.
Were you in your house last year for Halloween?
Yes.
Okay. I was thinking I was going to make a joke, but it probably wouldn't be appropriate. I don't want to make Tito's get mad at us. So yeah, celebrate Tito's Halloween, have some cocktails, give out real candy. Yeah, we love Tito's. I got the helmet over there. You got the helmet right there. Make yourself a Tito's soda. If it's already too late, do it tomorrow in celebration of this win of Haberman Middlekauff's birthday week. Tito's on us. Not really, but I mean, we would if we were around you at the bar. We'd buy a round for our people.
You're supporting us when you get the Tito's.
Yeah. So just go support Tito's. We love them. They love us. We all love them. Universally, just love.
Yeah. Just love, John. That's right. Bottled in Austin, Texas, 40% alcohol by volume, namely 80 proof, crafted to be savored responsibly.
Oh.
Yeah. We appreciate you. By the way, we're also sponsored by ButcherBox. We're also sponsored by ButcherBox. Right now, butcherbox.com/ham. Get you free New York strips and lobster. Plus $10 off. Go to butcherbox.com/ham.
Yeah, if you just go to butcherbox.com, you build your own boxes. We've done it. You should do it. You can create chicken, ribs, hamburger meat, steaks, and you mix and match, and you put it all together. And then you use our promo code this week, and you get 10-ounce New York steaks, and you get 8 ounces of lobster claw, plus it's a little knuckle meat. Free. No big deal. Just go to butcherbox.com/ham and create your boxes, get a subscription, get the meat flowing, and get big, like Kinlaw on the sideline.
Get the meat flowing. Mouth-watering meals, all kinds of recipes. John listed a bunch of the meat you can get. Plus, right now, you get the New York, sorry, I got distracted. The New York strips free and lobster. To get 2 10-ounce New York strip steaks and 8 ounces of lobster claw and knuckle meat for free in your first order, plus $10 off.
Can I read you this tweet? Nick Bosa hugging his ACL surgeon, Dr. Neil Elitrash, who is also the head Rams team doc, to close out the broadcast. Elitrash also operated on Jimmy G's shoulder. Keys San Francisco's offense and defense healthy thanks to the Rams medical doctor. The first reply on Twitter is LOL. Rams team doc freelancing for the Niners is so wrong. Now, in fairness, obviously team docs, they're not their first job is with the team.
Yeah, I mean, and team docs, like the Rams, I don't, what do they get out of having him as their team doc? I guess what they get is access to Dr. Neal for ankle sprains and stuff that Dr. Neal, just to have him on game day there because he's so good. I mean, he is the new
Andrews.
Tommy John. Yeah, Dr. James Andrews. Feels like Elitrash is doing a ton of surgeries now.
Remember when the dude from Notre Dame hurt his leg in the bowl game and Jerry took him in the second round, Jalen Smith, and he's like, we knew guys, our team doctor worked on his ankle. Remember? Yeah. And they had insight. I mean, that's part of I would imagine this guy, UCLA med, probably has some options, make some money. I would guess he's driving a Mercedes. He doesn't need the Rams job.
Yeah, I wonder why he even does it. I guess just for the fun of football. Yeah, just the fun of it. Corey on the stream says that he did Acuna Jr.'s knee.
Could they send Kinlaw back to him?
And McGregor's broken leg.
Ooh, remember that thing?
Vaguely.
What do you think? Kyle's like, hey, Elitrash, Javon is just going to fly back on your guys' team plane and just you guys meet in the morning. Kinlaw, just follow Aaron Donald to the plane and just stay with Elitrash for the night.
One of those where you don't have an appointment, but you get him to look at Eric Armstead's foot before he leaves the field. Like, while we're here, do you mind? Could you take just a peek?
Hey, Elitrash, can you come into the locker room for 10 minutes? You have Adam Peters corral him on the field.
Did you think you have to check? Did he have to check on the guy that Bobby Wagner targeted?
Everyone's going nuts about it on social media.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just really into this Monday Night Football slate. I could have done it when the Cowboys-Giants game, but this game, whatever, there was another big game. I'm just into Troy and Joe. I just feel it feels big. I haven't been watching Peyton.
Really yeah.
And the Manning cast showed the streaker. The ESPN did not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do they just not follow the rules there?
I guess because they have maybe they can run some of the cameras themselves. I know. Steph was on when they did it. I watched.
Steph Curry was on tonight?
Steph Curry, Don Draper, and somebody else.
That was that's a
pretty good. Alyssa watched it and said it was hilarious. She loved it. And I watched them last week, the whole game. I enjoyed the hell out of the Cowboys-Giants game watching Manningcast. Now, I was not going to watch them today because I need a little more # full screen film study. And Joe and Troy are bringing the heat. They're very good. But from what I saw, Don Draper, they showed a high school pick, John Hamm playing high school football, second team All-State in Missouri, he said, as a middle linebacker.
You think he was Hammer then, too?
I think he was that's probably when he got the name to start. Yeah. Elitrash did work on Kinlaw, says the chat. Again, we can't be held accountable for things the chat reports. But
I mean, even Greg Maddux gave up some home runs, right? I mean, it's just he's not perfect. He's not perfect.
He can only work with the material he's got.
That's true, but I would be interested to get Elitrash on the phone and ask him about old Javon.
Yeah, well,
because it feels like if you just have normal limbs, Jimmy, Bosa, you can come back fully healthy. Javon, I'm not trying to be negative to start this podcast. 49ers just won, but that was a pretty glaring start before the even first snap. It's like, wait, the knee's acting up. You're like, Jesus. Again, sorry to get us off on a negative path.
Yeah, I know. That's okay. Not negative. Just it's actually easier to talk about it on a day like Monday night. So the Niners have won the game in a danger zone. And I thought on the pregame, I think it was Alex Smith who everybody who puts on a suit thinks they look like Alex Smith in a suit.
He's a good-looking guy.
The suit is perfect on him. A little surprised that Robert Griffin didn't take Shanahan and the Niners, John. Didn't you think RG3 would take the Niners?
I'd imagine they didn't talk pregame. No.
Didn't take the Niners tonight.
Guy, he dropped they showed the Washington football team staff classic with him, McVay and Kyle. And Robert dropped I've played for Kyle and Sean. All three of us weren't ready to win then. It's like, shut up, Robert. Shut up.
Wait a second. How old is he?
Well, I mean, his rookie, like his 2 years with them. But his point was like, we're all winners. I just wasn't ready.
I get the point, but my point is he's 32. Like, he could still be in the league if he's ready now. It's like he's 38. Like, well, just window closed. Right?
Big outlier up on a stage with Steve Young, Alex Smith, and Larry Fitzgerald.
Yeah. But anyway, so Alex said at the beginning, before the game, he's like, he took the Niners. And he said, I've seen this story before. This just feels like last year on Monday Night Football. I've seen this game before, and that's why I'm going with the Niners. And he was kind of right. It kind of, by the end, it turned into a little bit that Monday night game from last year.
It happened at a different time in the game. And I don't know if it was the exact same play. We'd have to look it up. There was a pick six on a screen. No, it wasn't, because remember, it bounced off the wide receiver last year and it fell into Jimmy.
Mosley last year? Or Ward?
It was Jimmy Ward. This one, he just jumped the wide receiver, but same type deal. Down the line of scrimmage, flipped the entire game. I think it might have been like 7-0 and at 14-0 and the floodgates open. This, I'm not going to lie, we'll get into Kyle's decision to not kick the field goal a little bit later, but I felt like the Rams were going to score on that drive, and I already assumed they would get the 2 point, and we were going to have a tie game at 17-17 until Hufunga picked it, and it felt like the game was over at that moment.
Over, yeah. Because I think we'll get to Shanahan's decision to kick the field goal, the first field goal that Robbie Gould made later, but it did feel like if they had scored a touchdown then, and that was, 14 minutes left in the game, that might have ended it. But once Hufunga scored the touchdown, I did check in on John Hamm's interview. Yeah, the game.
Well, because 14-19 or 14-9, if they scored field goal, 21-9 felt like it would have been the score, just like when they scored and it went to, what was the score then? 23-9. Was that what Hufunga picked it off?
Yeah, because it went from an 8-point game, so that it was
24-9. Yeah, that was just
because it was 17.
The Hufunga pick felt a little bit like a Deebo versus the Bears last year. It was just okay. It was well needed at the right time.
Yeah,
different. I mean, Deebo had already. I guess that kind of was the start of his breakout, but he was still Deebo Samuel. Not like quite Deebo Samuel, but it was still, he's one of the Niners' best players. That moment felt a little bit like, I'm one of the best players on this excellent defense. Like the Niners defense, I mean, Nick Bosa, whatever Elitrash did to his ACL, he is a better player now, right? Fred Warner and Greenlaw were just crushing people. Charvarius Ward, I mean, I can't remember the last time the Niners had a legitimate man-to-man corner. And all those guys stand out. And Armstead, when he's healthy, is obviously a really good player. 95, his Trojan teammate, he's fucking looks sweet. But Hufunga, it's like, okay, Hufunga's in the box. He can really tackle, hit people. We all agree there. Like, when you do that, when you're like jumping routes, guy, and that was fucking sweet. I mean, that was that'd be a sweet play if it was right, like Eagles Cowboys and whoever, Darius Slay or Diggs. Like if you're just watching the game on your couch, you'd be like, oh.
Well, it was the play that Kendrick tried to make on the Deebo touchdown run, right, where he tried to undercut it. I don't know. He had to jump so high. Who knows? He may not have been able to bring it down and run that far. But it's just
a bad pass by Jimmy.
No, it was perfect. He got it over the defender. Only where his guy could catch it. I don't. Sometimes missing high turns out to be great.
Could Elatrash do a little something in the shoulder to get the release a little?
Again,
lower?
I'm no Tom House, but can we just get him to step into the throw? Everything is like falling away.
He throws a lot of high fastballs, guy. I don't know how fast the fastballs are, but they are high.
Yeah, I know. He threw 2 passes to Kittle that were actually pretty good, but
they were.
No, that moment, they've just been. I don't think there's. It's hard. I think kind of that jump the route pick 6 might be the best way to seal a game.
I think a jump the route pick 6 just in general is one of the sweetest plays in football. It happened. Were you watching Rodgers yesterday when he threw it to that random dude on the Patriots? Guy kind of slipped, but there's nothing like an out route or a screen, and the dude is in full stride. So when he catches it, the offense is all going the other way. Like he's just gone. Yeah. Even though Stafford, as I mentioned right before we hopped on, I think is probably faster than most humans just realize. He wasn't going to catch him, but there was for a split second, you're like, could he jump and touch his feet?
He's a smooth runner.
Stafford?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. He's a smooth runner. I mean, now we're not going to talk. Somebody early made the comment, and I think it's true because it did cross my mind. We're not going to talk about the fact that, in some ways you look at them and think, how are you guys not 4-0? That's that's another world, and you can't live in that world. But they had to get to 2-2. They had to get to 2-2.
Is that a little like, though, you could have drafted so-and-so? You passed on so-and-so?
I mean, it's in the same world, right? Because it's in the coulda, shoulda world. But when you draft a guy, we don't really know all the information or why you don't draft a guy or whatever. We know we watched the games against the other teams that you played. We know all of the information, and you lost games that were bad losses.
And there's just no guarantee. The Raiders could have taken Devin White over Cleveland Farrell. Would Devin White look as sweet as he would on the Raiders? Maybe, probably, but you never know. Right? Bad game.
Yeah.
Would Justin Jefferson just be as sweet if the Eagles would have taken him? Howie's probably. But, it's just, you never know. I did text someone tonight. The problem with the Niners, because they lose in such devastating fashion that the next week you're like, I'm sitting there before the game getting texts how you feeling? I'm like, I don't know, man. I mean, if you tell me they lose, I have no confidence. Because whenever you go into the game that they end up looking sweet, and for the most part, they look pretty sweet tonight, you never feel good about that moment going into the game. Because that's just, if Kyle had just won over the last 2 years, the Indy game, the Tennessee game, and the Denver game, last year they would have been 12-win team, and this year would feel 3-1. They're headed toward an easy 11-6. But we already know the roller coaster to get to double digits. Buckle up, This Panthers game has 14-14 end of the third quarter written all over it. I am already prepared for Niners are down 10.
Well, hold on. What do they do on their first drive?
Field goal probably.
March the field.
Yeah,
right?
But have multiple open guys on 3rd and goal from the 4, and Jimmy airmails them. So you can already see it coming. But one thing I will give Kyle's team last year and then again tonight is when they've had to have some moments. Tonight, in a weird way, I know it's October 3rd and it's week 4, and it honestly feels like 11 wins is going to be a high win total this year. How many 15, 14 win teams do we have? It doesn't feels like a lot of teams are going to lose some games.
There's a lot. You do watch a lot of games going, I don't really know who I really like, right? Who do I love right now? Which is good. It's good.
Also, because no one practices anymore, do you notice that half the league gets hurt every week? I mean, it's just part of the deal. So, I have faith the Niners when they have to have it. I just don't have faith. The Panthers week. No, little faith. One thing they've proven is the get-up games, specifically against the Rams, either they find a way week 18 or the 2 Monday night games, they just fucking come in swinging like Conor McGregor before he shattered his leg.
Shanahan's won 7 of 8 against McVay.
That's pretty nuts.
I think RG3, now that I say that, I think RG3's prediction was the student has become the master. And then he picked the Rams.
Do you think Sean was nicer to RG3 than Kyle?
Clearly. But it was probably not hard to be nicer than Kyle.
I don't think I'm breaking news here. Kyle hates him. And RG3 deep down, I think, is faking a little bit, has to hate him. That him and his dad ruined his career.
Yeah. Yeah. You're saying faking it because he's not saying on camera that I hate him.
Yeah, and I think, like we talked about yesterday about the bitter ex, like RG3's life's going good now, calling games.
Yeah,
Looks like he's really got, you don't want to look like the bitter guy. Like RG3's hanging his hat on being Mr. Happy-go-lucky. I'm funny. I make penis jokes on games. I think he tried to masquerade his hatred toward Kyle into like, oh, yeah, master become the student. And I think I give the slight edge to the Rams. Deep down, he's going like this early on up in the box. And Steve Young's like, bro, what's your deal?
John, check this tweet out. Richard Sherman tweeted, "You cannot tell me that Stafford is playing better than Goff right now. If you're a numbers guy, then go check him." Now, Stafford is hurt, right? Kind of. Is his shoulder? What's the deal? I don't know. His arm
feels normal to me.
I don't know. I'm just saying, like, he did have a shoulder something. He was like missing practices right before the season started.
Agree, he was banged up, but he's looked normal as a player. Like that to me is the Matt Stafford experience.
I just felt obligated to mention it.
I'll give Sherman credit on this one as a new media guy, even though it feels like him and Draymond had that role like early on in their career. When he has a take, like when he truly believes something, like he's went in on his chips on Stafford, I think years ago. He thinks he's a very overrated player and throws a lot of picks. He thinks he's an extremely overrated player. And the one thing that keeps me coming back that Richard has some validity on this take, if you consistently throw interceptions nonstop, like that's a huge negative as a quarterback. Right? He throws a lot of picks, guy. A lot.
That's fair analysis, yeah.
I mean, a ton of interceptions.
But you've watched Goff and Stafford for a long time. What do you think?
But I think the argument is, if I had to go into the playoffs, who would I want my quarterback? Even Richard would have to pick Matt Stafford. If Richard wouldn't pick Matt Stafford, him and like Jared Goff's dad would be the lone people that would take Jared Goff. Dan Campbell would take Matt Stafford back, right? But if you're just acknowledging like Matt Stafford ain't exactly lighting the world on fire. He can't run, like his offensive line is not good. And the knock on Jared, well, he can't move. Well, Stafford kind of can, but not really. And then he throws the ball to the other team a lot. Now, he also makes throws that Jared just can't make, right?
Yeah, yeah. And plays, and, you know, Jared's not playing in the same level of game necessarily since he went to Detroit that Stafford's playing in.
Well, I think like a Kyle or I guess Kyle would, or D'Amico, right? The defensive coordinators would tell you, who would you rather play? Of course, they would rather play Jared Goff, right?
I mean, Goff's 11 touchdowns, 3 picks this year. 11 touchdowns, 3 picks this year.
He's thrown a lot of touchdowns.
He's
hit some 2-point conversions.
He is by 1 yard. You want to know your leading passers by yardage this year? Justin Herbert, 1250. Josh Allen, 1227. Jared Goff, 1126, which is one more than Matt Ryan. So take that for whatever you think it's worth.
Who has more touchdowns than Goff at 11? There can't be many.
No, there's just a couple guys tied with him, Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. So your classic big three.
Now, you and I talked about this the other day. Like, Jimmy will never, like, Jimmy couldn't do what Jared Goff does down 30-10. Jared has several touchdowns. I would guess if we did a study, half of them have been down multiple scores. So if you have 3 or 4 touchdowns down 18 plus points or 17 plus points, it isn't quite the same as in a 1-score game. You know, it's hard to put all Jared's numbers into context. Like, I watch Mahomes, I feel all of his touchdowns are like in the context of the game and like throwing fucking nails in the coffin. Where Jared's are like, it's 40-20, and then all of a sudden you look up and it's 40-35. You're like, well, he threw a couple touchdowns. So there is some context needed with Jared's numbers. That when I watch Josh Allen and I watch Mahomes and I watch Lamar, it's hard for me to say they're all paralleling each other touchdown-wise, right?
Yes.
Luckily, is Jimmy going to throw? What would you put his over/under on touchdowns if he stays healthy all season long at?
Well, I mean, what does he have right now? He threw 1 in this game.
He threw 1 in Seattle. He's on a pace about 0.8 a game.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't like at this rate, it doesn't feel like it's going to have to be higher, right?
Yeah, he's got 2.
And the pace he's on, I'm saying, like one a game in the end can't possibly be enough. Can it? Is this defense? I mean, even if it's the best defense in the NFL, is 1 touchdown or less than that a game enough?
Yeah, I mean,
And
in
there are
fairness
naturally-
to Jimmy, as you text me, do they not teach toe dragging at tight end university?
Yeah, that was now as you text me, we're just reading. It's like this is like, Ayuk was open in the front of the end zone. The throw to Kittle that Kittle didn't get his toe down was an amazing throw. I mean, there was not a window, and he put the ball, but it was just made it harder than it needed to be. Although I think he started, his first read was Deebo left, and then he came to Kittle middle and just didn't ever get to Ayuk, I guess. I don't know. I'm no JT O'Sullivan, but yeah, I mean, he's got 3 touchdowns in 3 games. He's got 3. So yeah, 1 a game.
Did you notice that, like, as before Kittle had his first catch, which was another one of Jimmy's best passes of the game, and Troy's like, watch this. He lets it rip before Kittle's out of his break.
Yeah.
But early on, there was like a buzz where they're like, are they ever going to target Kittle? And I could sense on the internet too, like, where's George? And then you realize these 2 fucking guys, even though George kind of pivoted on him for Trey, which is fair. I mean, he made the right long-term move and then he's pivoted back. They have a pretty good connection. Like, those 2 guys connect pretty well. It feels like Deebo and him make plays together because Deebo jumps up and makes the catch. But Kittle, for whatever reason, he often hits in stride. Why don't they throw it to 85 a little more? And then
they were rotating one guard spot and replacing the other.
I would imagine if we did a little tape study early on in the game, George is helping a lot of people out at the line of scrimmage, would be my guess. So it's like
opened it up in the second half for him, John.
Well, part of like Kelsey's deal, and it's hard to compare the 2. I don't think it's comparable as we just have to come to an agreement. Kelsey gets to just line up like Juwan Jennings and just be the slot wide receiver. But he's like, I'm a tight end, which kind of gets screwed because I end up making less money than if I was just a wide receiver, which I basically am. I'd make $25 million, but you only get to pay me 16. Kind of gets screwed. George does have to block a lot.
Yeah.
Did you notice on a couple of those runs, like he'd be like pulling like a guard up the hole? He'd be like, geez, there's 85 leading, like running. And then Wilson would hit it, and told you Wilson's got some quicks. I didn't say that actually, but I'm coming around.
Yeah, I mean, he's hit a couple home run plays now.
It looks better on non-rainy grass.
Looks better on non-rainy grass. Looks better when he's there's a hole for him to hit, and he just hits it right when he's got to try and dance a little bit, which is not typically what the Niners are looking for in their running backs. But I mean, as you saw today, like what we thought was a position of depth at running back is not. I mean, the only running back that carried the ball was Jeff Wilson Jr. Juszczyk got 1. Deebo got 2 for 2 yards, by the way. Again, that part of the game didn't work, whatever. And Garoppolo had the 1 scramble for a first down. So, but yeah, I mean, when given the chance 5 yards down the field, Kelsey goes over a guy. We saw it on Sunday night. Kelsey leaps over a guy and Kittle takes him on. It's just that they are probably physically from a little different athletically too, right? Kelsey's a little springier. George is a little more brute force. And that's just what it is. So what? He's not Kelsey.
The one thing with George, I'd say Kelsey is a little more like quarterbackial, where he'll just go down. Like he's not trying to get into a heavyweight knockout show. He's like, I'm getting up and I'm going to play another down, and then I'm going to catch another 10-yard pass. And Kittle tackled at the legs, drags the guy for like an extra 2 as he's lowering his shoulder against. It's like, George, this isn't 300. This isn't the shooting of 300. They need you. You're one of the best players on the field. You don't need to try to injure every player. Him and Deebo just have this quality. Deebo, when he gets a little grass, kind of realizes like I can get to the end zone. But if it's not there, there was the play. Was it a quick screen or it had to be a quick screen where he got close to the end zone and he just lowers his shoulder. I think Deebo and Kittle, like Darren Waller, no tight ends play like this. I mean, those 2 guys play like it's fucking high school football, and I'm just going to destroy you because I'm going to Power 5 and you're going hopefully to some academic school because that's your only chance to be successful in life. I'm going to the pros. And that's how they treat the NFL. And Jalen does too, right? Ayuk kind of gets into it. Like that game, Aaron Donald treats it like that. It kind of gets like, it does get chippy, which
is what you have to do to win championships, but you got to get there healthy to be able to finish.
Like ultimately, if the Rams flame out this year, their core guys will always say, I'm a champion, right? Like you guys are still trying to get over that hump. And you guys are, I think we've all can acknowledge like they're championship level talents, competitors, and they can hang with the champions.
Yeah. Championship level effort.
The problem is when they shoot to like Troy's like, or Joe's, let's go look at all the 49ers in the box that are injured. It's like, that guy's a $25 million player. There's Trey Lance with a shattered ankle. Kinlaw hasn't even made it up there yet. It's like Jimmy Ward is probably getting his fucking soda in the other room. I mean, it's half their starter. There's Elijah Mitchell, their starting running back.
Yeah. If there's a fire drill and the elevators don't work, the quarterback can't get down from up there. He's got to take the elevator, right?
He'd be stuck. Well,
so
you'd say Trent could carry him, but you wouldn't want to put the pressure on the ankle, right?
Yeah. I mean, it could have used Trent on the goal line probably at the end of the third quarter. Would have liked Trent Williams then. Jimmy Garoppolo in the game, John, 16 of 27, 239, a touchdown, and no picks. I thought at one point at the half, he was right around 50%. He was 9 of 17 for 138. So he had about 101 yards passing in the second half. And Troy Aikman, at one point, they put Jimmy's numbers up on the screen, and he said, I think he's been a little better than his numbers. And I would tend to agree. Again, we're moving with the Jimmy scale here, but I see your face and I know what you're going to say, right? The missed throw to was it Warner or Dwelly? Warner early in the game.
Was Warner supposed to look over his left shoulder or right shoulder? It's hard to give Jimmy the benefit of the doubt on that.
Maybe. Like when you see from behind, from the end zone view, you can see that the defender is shaded to the inside, but it's not Steve Largent here going to turn. That's an old NFL Films reference. The miss to use check, right?
To me, the use check play, we're not in the meetings, but it's pretty clear. If they're going to send use check on a go route, either they've practiced in the during the week and said, hey, look for 44. It's going to be, that's the trick here. Our fullback running a go route and Kyle going like this and Jimmy not seeing him. The 49ers over the last couple of years have to lead the league in wide fucking open Pro Bowlers, not just like, it's like their third wide receiver who was looking that way. I'm talking Ayuk, Deebo, Juszczyk, Kittle on scheme plays, throwing up their arms at the quarterback, and the quarterback just looking at like a check down over here to the right and sometimes missing that check down. And the guy going like this. I mean, this is like flag football. It's like the dude lost at sea, waving his arms at planes. That's what Kyle did. Did you see that? His arms were like this.
Yeah.
Now, luckily, he had some sweet plays, right? He had a sweet run. He had the sweet play down. But
use check, yeah.
You can't convince me that when that play is called, if they have repped that during the week, the play is like, hey, look at Kyle.
Look there. Yeah.
What would be the point of sending him on a go route for his health? I don't get it.
It's not a decoy. I mean,
the Niners don't hit those plays. That's why offense feels so hard for them sometimes, is the 5 or 6 plays that they have to be schemed during the week work. I mean, Cooper Kupp is making fucking plays like he's Jerry Rice out there in traffic, one-handed, off the ground. They're having to now they're hitting them, but it felt like, God, him and Stafford are having to work for these yards.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Kyle's like, Deebo here, Kittle here. It's like Jimmy's looking over here. I don't think
that's a good point. Just as an aside, I don't think the Rams had that tonight, did they? Somebody just running wide ass open. Didn't feel it.
Cooper Kupp's making the most miraculous plays.
Well, they feel like
he's awesome.
They would be. A buddy of mine texted me during the game. He's like, they would be SOL without Cooper Kupp. And I was like, yeah, you know what? I think you're right. He had 14 for 122, 19 targets. I mean, Antonio Brownish, 19 targets.
Well, to me, what they'd be scary is like the Niners, Deebo and Ayuk. Can you just imagine if they just had Ayuk on that team with them?
Yeah.
Just to balance it out. Like they have no.
Allen Robinson's not that guy.
But Cooper Kupp, does it really matter? I mean, he had 14 catches for 122. He's unstoppable.
No, yeah. I mean, Higbee did have 10 catches. It felt like every time it was just Higbee for like a quick 7 yards.
God, the two of those guys had 24 catches and like 200 yards.
Yeah.
I kind of
D'Anthony,
like the Skrannik, the little white guy from Notre Dame.
just how many times do you, well, part of it is like you think you're covering Cup, and then it turns out surprise,
Got
Steve
you, Lenore.
Only stat that matters for Jimmy is 0 interceptions.
Did he get close?
Yes.
Which play?
The I mean the Deebo touchdown, but that's not really, wouldn't count that. I thought there was almost a pick 6. No, you know what it was? I thought if he had thrown the ball to Ayuk on the goal line where Ayuk was open, initially I thought maybe Ramsey would have jumped that, but Ramsey wasn't in position. There was no real like batted ball, almost a pick. Ramsey got
his bad throws were just complete airmails. The one Jawan Jennings who looked pretty wide ass open.
Yeah.
You know, he's a weird player because tonight he felt much more comfortable than last week, but he still is like a pitcher that can just have a sweet strikeout, but can also have a pitch on, 3-2 that airmails the catcher. And I mean, the catcher leaps and the ball goes well over and hits the back net. It's like, how? Because everything looks good, looks normal in his drop, and the ball leaves his hand. And then your eyes kind of go, and you're like, damn, the guy's open. Oh, and then you just pray there's not, a safety, but Eric Weddle or Taylor Rapp is not 15 yards behind him, which sometimes there is, and it hits him right in the stomach. Yeah. And sometimes it just hits green grass.
Yeah.
He airmails a lot of people, though, guy.
Yes, he does.
Like really high.
Yes, he does.
Except Kittle, who he kind of hits in stride.
Well, I mean, flashback to the Seahawks game last year.
I mean, that Deebo catch, I'm just watching. I have the ESPN.com box score up. And Ramsey's kind of all over the place. If that's Ramsey, he's a couple inches. That could be a pick. Because the play that Ramsey batted down, he's just so long.
Yeah.
I mean, he picked him last year, remember? In the
Week only his
game.
Catch it, John. Ramsey missed the tackle on that play.
I just think Jimmy at this point is kind of what he is. He's just a complete roller coaster ride, and you just get in the roller coaster, and the Niners really, really benefit. Here's what's pretty clear about Jimmy Garoppolo. He could, if he was on let's say you put him on like the Bears, like, 2 nobodies and Mooney, it could look pretty ugly. Like he does play with some pretty fucking sweet players.
He does.
Even Aikman's like,
God,
that's why it works. Watching Ayuk, I love this guy.
That's why it works.
Yeah,
that's why it works. But I do think the no picks was critical because you did. I started to wonder if Stafford would throw one. I think when the game started, I definitely thought the Niners had a turnover in them on defense because they kept going after the football. I thought they were going to actually rip the ball out once or twice. It turned out to be a Stafford pick, but look, I don't know. We'd have to do a little research here. How many times has Matthew Stafford thrown 48 passes and not thrown an interception? If you told me coming into the game, Stafford was going to throw 50 times, basically, would he throw a pick? Yes or no? Wouldn't you bet yes?
The problem is if you say 50 passes, you'd probably say 2 or 3 touchdowns. Right?
100%, which is, we'll talk about the defense. They deserve their own separate podcast, really. But
well, do you feel like Matt Stafford, I mean, the numbers, obviously he threw it a lot more, but similar yards, even though Jimmy's, I mean, a lot of those are the Deebo 57-yard play. Do you feel like Jimmy was better than Matt Stafford? Because I feel like you watch it, you go, Matt Stafford's a better player, but the one play is a crippling play. Jimmy didn't make it, so you might got to give Jimmy the nod, right?
I'd say that the Rams went into the red zone a lot and didn't score, and part of that was Stafford did miss. Now the Niners defense was phenomenal, but Stafford did miss some critical throws for them, right? And he almost threw the interception to Lenore in the end zone. As somebody said, he should have had 4 picks. I thought Stafford did not look great. Now I do think the Niners defense deserves a ton of credit for that.
I mean, the D-line is kicking his offensive line's ass.
In the corner. I mean, the whole thing is just
ass. I mean, they were in Matt Stafford's ass. 4 sacks in the first half, and it felt like it could have been 8. They were
all 11 hurries tonight or something like that.
How about the one where Nick gets him? He just released the ball, and Nick shoves him to the ground, and you could tell that hurt. Like he kind of shook it off. He gets peppered, especially by this team. Where Jimmy. The one play where,
0 sacks for Garoppolo.
99 went untouched. Jimmy flew, but he did get rid of the ball. That was quick. I was like, oh, shit. Other than that, it felt like Jimmy did have the one where he scrambled. I don't know if it was actually that close to being a pick. In real time, it looked closer than it actually was in slow motion. Where he kind of scrambles out, throws it, I think, to Warner, and the DB kind of comes late, but the ball was low. Like no one could have caught it.
Yeah.
Jimmy, when you scramble, I would say throw away, run away, no throwing down the field. That is not Jimmy's game to ad lib on the
I
move.
will say on that one, he wasn't throwing it over anybody. He wasn't throwing it by anybody.
Still risky.
There's a lot of stuff to talk about, but it's hard to talk about this game any further without talking about the Niners defense. Mike says that PFF credited Bosa with 14 pressures in the game. Ben Ross tweeted this: fewest points allowed, Niners 46, Bills 58, Cowboys 62. By the way, Lions 141. Seems like a lot more. Josh Dubow, noted Raider reporter, wrote, Niners Nick Bosa joins Rashawn Gary and Matt Judon as the only players with at least one sack in all 4 games this year. He's the first 49ers player ever with at least one sack in each of the first 4 games of the season. And as we know, a 1 sack per game pace is way better than a 1 touchdown per game pace. And it does feel like for every 1 Nick gets, he's close to having 3.
You know what we got to keep an eye on? Bosa sacks, Jimmy Garoppolo touchdown passes.
What number's higher?
I mean, to me, Bosa could get to 20. I have a hard time seeing Jimmy get to 20.
Bosa is, how does he, it really, when you watch him play, you go, how does he only walk away with 1 sack?
Did you notice, do you remember like the peak of Khalil's power? I think it was the year he got Defensive Player of the Year and All-Pro at multiple positions. People forget. I mean, I don't know how many people were watching the Raiders. Actually, they were a pretty good team that year. He'd come off the field. He would just take some series off. Part of it, he was just exhausted. I don't have a snap count in front of me, but I swear to God, I kept looking up, especially once Armstead got hurt, Kinlaw didn't play. It's like, they're going to have to give. It didn't feel like the guy got tired. Every time I looked, 97 was still, they were rotating the other 3 guys. 97 was just a machine. I don't think he fatigues. I mean, guy, we all know how great a shape he's in. But with the pass rushers, I don't care. And listen, Khalil Mack was in elite shape too. Like it's normal to like take a series or just like a couple plays off. Every time I looked up, 97 was one of the 4 guys up front. Every single time. It felt like he never came out of the game. I'm sure he did, but that had to be one of his higher snap counts of his career. Because every time I looked up, 97 was on one of the edges.
And they threw the ball a ton, so it was pass rush nonstop, right? You throw the ball 48 times, you're running. They're just throwing the ball a ton. But it
nuts.
I mean, it felt like they would just open up like a manhole and 2 more defensive linemen would just appear and they would just rush the passer. At one point, I'm like, is Drake Jackson here today? Everyone else is making plays. And then Drake Jackson made a play. That was
a sweet play.
That wasn't a criticism of him. I just mean that so many guys were making plays over the course of the game that it was like there's not enough plays for everybody to make. Ebekam's flying around. You and I, the first time we laid eyes on Menahu in person, we're like, this. If you told me that was the Niners' first round top 10 pick, you'd believe him. He looked fantastic. Armstead
Ridgeway made a play.
Givens was making plays. I mean, they just
relentless.
They were relentless. They really
relentless. It is, and then I'm not the biggest fan when you have such a great 4-man pass rush, especially with, a very talented quarterback and talented, it might just be Kupp and Higbee, but still, like those guys have beat the Niners before. I don't think I'd ever blitz. And part of what makes Fred so special is like he made a sweet PBU today. Like I like him back. Now, I know he did. I don't know if he got credit for the sack, but he was in. Obviously, he can land the quarterback or add pressure. But I think I would just trust my unit. And I would just be like, I don't think my corners are playing well.
Yeah.
I got the Polynesian Ronnie Lott dominating. I would let Greenlaw and Fred just roam around, intimidate, and fly around, tip the ball. I don't think I would blitz that often. Because a couple times they did. McVay had one really good drive early in the game. It wasn't the first series. It was when they got their second field goal. And it felt like every time that they would send pressure, he kind of knew it and definitely played off the D-line. But even remember the one play, like Mosley had to chase down the guy. It was a great playback. And then the next play was like a sweep. It was an unreal back-to-back play calls by McVay. perfect play calls.
Yeah.
Now, they ended up stopping them. And the most important part, yards are the most overrated thing in defense. The only thing that matters is points. You hold the field goals, not touchdowns. Those are huge wins. But like, and he's clearly one of the better play callers. So unless now you do play Andy Reid this year and you play McVay again, most play callers don't have that in the bag. But I would just let my 4-man front chase him and let everyone else just fly around. The other thing is, how do you
got there? Lenore got there with a sack.
Yeah, it was, Stafford kind of held. My thing is, you can't run a screen if I don't blitz my linebackers because those two guys are so fast. Or it's just very difficult. Like, they're going to make a lot of plays in the open field. And once Jimmy Ward comes back, I just wouldn't blitz very often. Now, I know that's not – you got to have some curveballs. But
DeMeco likes doing it, clearly, right?
Didn't you feel a couple times tonight like the blitz almost killed him? Like –
yeah, almost killed him. They blitzed.
I guess what I'm saying is when they just play straight up, I felt like I'm not just your equal. I'm better than you. Like if we just play straight up, you can't beat me. When I do a trick, when I try to throw a curveball, you might hit it.
Yeah, you might. I think there's probably something to be said for just creating more stress for the quarterback from time to time, right? Creating more stress with an offensive line that's having trouble. Just creating stress by throwing bodies. There's probably something to be said about, even if you don't get there, just making life, just trying to confuse. Because I think one thing, when McVay did his halftime coming out, he said, well, one thing our guys we were not, he's like, give them credit, missed assignment. So it was like both. But I did, they had to change their center. I wonder if the Niners just felt like we can confuse them. They don't know what's going to hit them. And I think DeMeco probably, like an offensive play caller, has so much shit that he thinks can work. It might be hard to just only send 4 guys, right? Because you're like, look at all this stuff I can do. Like, all these guys are flying around having fun. Let's have a little fun out here, man. So he did it. Now, you're right. I mean,
Thanks, Lisa. McVay had the glow of like, yeah, I just signed $15 million a year. I'm a Super Bowl champ. Just got married to a dime. Like, if we win or lose, like, my life's still sweet.
Yeah.
No, he was pissed.
They got some things to work through.
Yeah, they got it. But I think the difference, obviously they have a quarterback that's proven they can win Super Bowl with, who is a roller coaster ride. They feel much more top heavy than the 49ers. I mean, think how many guys the Niners are missing, and they still feel equal talent. Like the Niners fully healthy are way more talented than the Rams.
Let's talk about the Niners from a defensive standpoint with that point, though. Because I do think, and you watched every game on Sunday, when we try to figure out, because I think the conversation is starting, is this the best defense in the NFL? And, from the points per game margins and some of the numbers.
Who were the other two teams? The Bills?
Yeah, Buffalo. And then somebody actually in the chat said, well, actually the Niners have given up less than 46 because one of them was a special team score. So it's actually 39. Dallas was the other team. But I do think
two-pointer.
What's that?
The Jimmy safety.
The Jimmy safety. Yeah, good point. I do think when you just watch them play, it's really, you don't really see any weaknesses. And I think that's pretty rare, right? You see everybody on the field is capable of making multiple plays over the course of a game. Gibson, Hufunga, Lenore. I mean, guys that were kind of questions coming into this year are making plays. So I do think they have a chance. Just when you watch them and you compare them to every defense that you watch, there's no perfect defense. I don't think it's a stretch at all to say that this could end up being the best defense in the NFL, because they have one of the best players in the NFL. Let's start with that, right?
Yeah, I think the only thing you would question is with Armstead and Kinlaw out, just beef up front will just be thin. As the year goes out, we'll see, is Armstead seriously hurt? Did he hurt himself more, or he just couldn't play through? At this point, is Kinlaw, like I went being bullish on Kinlaw. Now it's like, if you tell me he's in and out, the rest of, it's just, who knows?
Yeah.
But
I think Armstead, I'll just say this on him real quick. He's dealing with plantar fasciitis, and they held him out and they brought him back, and he had to leave the game. I mean, there's only one way for that to get better, and that's rest, right? So, and I think it takes a lot of rest. So those are two bodies that are not replicable, right? I mean, you couldn't fucking make those if you were creating a team on Madden. I mean, they're two of the better looking guys in the league size-wise. I mean, they are massive. You and I have been lucky enough to just go to these practices, stand next to them. They're as good looking of defensive linemen as you get. So you remove those two people,
their high end, fully healthy, is to me pretty elite. Alshire had a major injury, so their depth, Flanagan's solid. But I mean, they are, when you have those three guys, now I know Greenlaw and Fred, but my point is like they're high end when they're fully healthy. I think they're the most talented defense in the league. Missing a couple guys, to me, the way they play, because the edge rush is so awesome. Those two linebackers make all the plays. I think a huge upgrade. Like looking last year, like they were a pretty damn good defense. They just couldn't cover anyone. Well, now you got one guy who's looks like a cover corner, just Charvarius Ward, cover corner. Mosley is above average. He's never going to be the athlete and stuff that Ward is.
Do you think he's good? Is he a good corner?
Yes.
And how many teams have two good corners?
I mean,
or good
way
plus?
less than half.
I think he's probably good plus.
And listen, I questioned, just because we hadn't seen like what this guy was going to look like as a full-time starting safety. He's fucking sweet. Like Hufunga's good. Like I'm not trying to overreact to a pick six because he's been kicking ass all season. Like he's got to be in like the Pro Bowl mix through a month, right?
Well, I saw Ralph Russo, who covers college football, tweeted like, this is a classic overthink. The guy looks in the NFL the same way he looked in college. He just didn't test well, but this is how he looked at USC.
I think the overthink though is he kind of played a hybrid at USC. The Niners are kind of doing that though with him. I think people question like, what's his position? That he was too slow to play safety and not big enough to play linebacker. The 49ers believed that he could play safety. Like they just believed he could play safety. Because you would say, well, do the Niners get that much credit? They were passing on his ass too, Because if we could do a redraft, is Hufunga going in the top 60 picks?
But I think no. But I mean,
no, I think he might.
Well, maybe he would. But I do think when you get drafted in the top 60 picks, like you're getting drafted for what you are in a bubble.
Or let's just do the second day, so the third round too, right? He would get.
But
drafted
I'm saying, like, is he like if a bad team drafted him, a bad defense drafted him, would it be the same? It would not be the same, right?
No. Well, he doesn't have to cover people one-on-one.
Which is kind of the point. Like when you draft a guy in the top 60, it's like anywhere no matter what team you put him on, he's a game changer. Maybe he would be. I don't know. Maybe he will. I keep doubting the guy. Not that we're doubting him. We're fans of him.
He gets the 49ers deserve credit. They utilize his skill set. You notice when you look up where 29 is, he's up there a lot with Fred and Greenlaw. He ain't like way back there like he's Ed Reed. They have the two corners. They play one safety back, and he kind of gets to play the Cam Chancellor-ish role, right? What they used to do with Dante Whitner, just play to the guy's strengths. He's a great tackler. He's a great run defender, and just let his instincts happen.
His instincts. He's smart. Like he had that pick. He had Matthew Stafford picked before he picked off the ball.
I think the Russo guys tweet, though, if you did watch USC, which even in their down moments, a lot of people pay attention to him, he fucking made plays all over the place.
Yeah.
Like Drake, it was clear, like if you're like a football nerd, you're like, he's got the bend, he's got the burst. But you could be my mom and be like, did 15 just have 17 tackles that game? Like he just made all their plays. He just made all their tackles.
Plus you notice him because of his hair. Your mom would notice him.
Yeah, great hair. Has he got a hair commercial deal around the corner, you think?
Will he end up in the Palomalu commercial?
Wouldn't that be sweet?
You can't watch a commercial without seeing Mahomes or Herbert at this point.
Did you ever see Andy's commercial live?
I did.
It's
it's very good. It's where he's drawing the mustache.
That's good.
And I saw the Palomalu one, which is very good. Gage gave us $2.79 Canadian to ask for our thoughts on the Eagles defense, and that's defense with a C. Thank you, Gage.
Can we do some math to know the importance of this?
I did the math already. It's $2.05. So there you go. Eagles defense. I mean, that's a top 5 defense, right?
Well, I think I was watching some of their game against the Jags. They have two corners, Slay, and they signed Bradbury, the dude that was on the Giants and the Panthers. He had a pick. They also traded for the dude on the Saints. Like they got good DBs. Their D-line is just healthy. So I would say Bosa is the best player of the two groups. They definitely have a little more name recognition.
Reddick,
Fletcher Cox is still there.
Graham,
They signed Hassan Reddick, who's like a pass rusher who's kicking ass. They got
this with Nakobe Dean.
I just think that he didn't win the starting job, but he's
played in one game.
Maybe he's banged up. Maybe he's a healthy scratch. I don't know. Jordan Davis. I mean, the Niners you just want that body. To me, When you have Jordan Davis, when you have Kinlaw, it just takes a little pressure off everyone because they take up some space. And that's where if Kinlaw, I feel very, very good about this defense. If Kinlaw's just around, just a body, giving me 25 snaps, just on early downs.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like it might just be kind of maybe a not quite the D Ford situation, but it's going to be a weekly management of his knee. And you just, I think you have to start thinking. The good thing for them is they've developed so many other interior defensive linemen, but you have to start thinking about them not as a first round pick.
I think they deserve a lot of credit. You know, if you think about their biggest free agent signings over the years, you know, Juszczyk was, they actually got shit early on. They were shitty. They're like, you're going to pay a fullback this much. He's going to be on the team probably till he retires. Trent was a pretty easy one because he kind of forced his way here, and then they had no choice. They had to re-sign him and basically pay him whatever he wanted. The Ward was one of their first, like, kind of big money. I guess Alex Mack, not really. They didn't have to pay him that much. I think Ward's one of their biggest signings of the Kyle John era. And it's been basically a plug-and-play move, it feels like, right? And plug-and-play, huge upgrade for what they needed. He's been everything. And I mean, he's been better than I would have expected. Like, because I give you a little leeway at corner. Like, you're allowed to trip and give up a touchdown here. It's hard. He's, like, making incredible PBUs.
And just, it feels like if you watch, I like to, little pro tip, I don't know if you did this tonight with 2 screens, I like to put TV2 like 5 seconds behind. And you can just watch the play, and then you can watch the play again after you know what happened. So it's hard because he disappears from the screen, but there'd just be times you're like, where's Ward? And he would not, after the snap, you wouldn't see him again because the ball didn't go near him. I don't know how many times he got targeted tonight, but it didn't feel like much.
Well, doesn't that, if you think about the 19 team with Richard, you know, Richard was an all-pro. They didn't throw his side very often. So you could really kind of cheat on the other side.
Yeah.
You know, the safety can cheat. When you feel you can lock down a side with a corner, you basically can overload the other side. To me, that's a huge help. That's where you can cheat on your defense. So as Ward, it doesn't feel, one thing about this defense, and Richard, remember, used to argue this, they don't change sides. Like, Jalen's all over the place. Sometimes Jalen's in the slot, sometimes on the left, sometimes on the right, sometimes he's blitzing. You're like, you just kind of look like, where's the big corner? The 49ers corners, Mosley stays to, you know, if you're looking at them, the offense to the left, Ward's on the right. That's just where they are. And Richard's like, that's the way you play defense. He was adamant about that. But in fairness to him, it's what works, and it's what's working now.
It is what worked.
And Jalen's like, yeah, if I can just do whatever I want. See Raheem Morris? See how he looked cut. You see his muscles bulging.
I didn't notice.
He looked. Him and Sean. I mean, do they eat like cheeseburgers or anything? What are they feeding them down in LA?
Maybe they get sleep.
At least Kyle just looked like a skinny guy. Those guys look like they put on muscle during the season.
Cameron, $20. Happy birthday, fellas. Never seen so much talent held back by a mediocre quarterback. Imagine if this Niner team had a competent quarterback. They'd be the class of the league. Sigh, sips Tito's. You know, with this defense, I don't want to overreact to one game. With this defense, they still have a chance to be very good. I mean, the defense makes them a championship contender. It just
one thing I thought during the game is, why couldn't Jimmy in a month just be better than he is now? Just gets more comfortable. He felt better this week than he did last week. And also he's playing at home. I mean, you're going to be better at home. But I do wonder if it'll just look better. I'm not trying to even be like glass half full or anything. There's a human element to this, right? He was injured. He was not practicing. Like last week was atrocious, but it was pretty unique circumstances the way the whole thing is played out. I mean, they keep playing it's been a hell of a ride, guys. See ya. That was 9 months ago in his Travis Matthews sweatshirt.
Every broadcast shows it.
Adios, guys. Huge smile, like, love y'all. Me and my brothers, Kenny and Billy.
Got the place packed up.
If you guys see me on the road, give me a wave. Love everybody here. It's been a hell of a ride.
I'll be back with the Seahawks in 3 weeks.
You can't make this shit up.
I know. So anyway, D'Amico and his guys, hat tip to you guys. Deebo Samuel, John. Greatest touchdown of Deebo's career. You know what I loved about this game from Deebo was how dramatically he affected the game without having to run the ball. To me, that was the win from Deebo Samuel. He impacted the game like the best version, I think, that you would ideally draw up where you don't have to run Deebo 8 times. He ran it twice, 2 yards. Wasn't that great? Didn't matter. You watch him thinking if this guy has a long career, he'll go down as a great player because he's great.
When you have a game like last week and it was just the ugliest game that you could draw up with the punts and the 3 and outs, you just lose. The way football works is you kind of forget. Now, granted, we're 9-10 months away from the run he had, but Troy said it early on in this game, like he was an all-pro last year. And it's like, yeah, he's an all-pro. Like, let's see, it's not, I don't even blame him. I mean, it's quarterback situation. One guy shattered ankle, throwing the ball all over the place. His replacement throwing the ball all over the place. Deebo's being nice, inviting them all over to his house, but it's like, can I get some help around here? Ayuk just going to cruise like 50 catches, and everyone's like, God, this guy's a star. He can't even get the fucking ball. It's not an easy place to just be a wide receiver. But tonight was like, hey, guys, remember me? I am an all-pro. I'm one of the best players in the league. And just all it takes with him is the one play, and everyone's just like, oh, my God, is he the best player in football? He can just make a play that makes you immediately go, is that one of the best plays I've ever seen? Like, is this Little League or is this the National Football League? Is this the National Football League against the defending Super Bowl champs? Is that him making Jalen Ramsey, who did you see they put this up? Jalen Ramsey is the only defensive back, not corner, defensive back to make the Pro Bowl the last 5 years. I mean, wow. Jalen clearly is one of the better defensive backs of his generation. And he has him in space. It's one thing like Deebo's hard guy. Jalen's one of the longest defensive backs, and he just completely whiffs. Kind of. I guess he touched him, and Deebo kind of broke through it. I can't even imagine how difficult, like, okay, I got to break down. But Deebo's he's running full speed, but he's not really. But he's kind of like looking at his angle. He is one of the best players with the football in his hands. Like, running backs are football players in their hands, right? Or, I mean, they become great players like Barry Sanders, Derrick Henry, Walter Payton, Adrian Peterson. The ball goes in their hand immediately. A lot of wide receivers like Randy could run by everybody, right? Or Calvin Johnson could just outbody everybody. Deebo with the ball in his hands, I mean, he's got to be one of the greatest players of like the modern internet generation, right? A wide receiver with the football in his hands. It's remarkable.
It's almost like Barry Sanders might be his comp stylistically. I'm not saying he's Barry, but like stylistically.
Barry was faster.
But Deebo's never in a hurry. He sees angles that do not appear to be there, right?
Deebo's probably more violent.
Yeah, I mean,
Barry's more elusive.
Barry's not really the comp, probably, but if I had, you just kind of made me think, like, just in the sense that Deebo finds angles that you don't think are there. Like,
well, there's no wide receiver that's his comp, right?
Yeah, there's no wide receiver. I think to your point on the like, I'm an all-pro performance from him is I'm an all-pro, and it's not because I'm a Swiss Army knife that I'm an all-pro. I'm an all-pro because as a receiver, there isn't anybody else in the league that can do what I do. And I can also do running back stuff. And the stuff I do as a receiver translates to the running back, wide back stuff. But I'm an all-pro. Like, I thought it was cool that he had an all-pro level game, as you said, without it being about being a running back. Even though in the end, like, what he does on a screen and what he does when he takes a pitch, it's the same thing.
My favorite part about the professional level, like in college, if you don't work out hard enough and you piss the coaches off at at Ohio State, at Alabama, like they can just kind of throw you to the side. There's your equal a lot of the times. Like Will Anderson would be somewhat of an outlier, but if Marvin Harrison's kid was like lazy and Ryan Day hated him, they would have another guy that could, they would find another guy within a year or two that would be every bit his equal. In the pros, like there are not equals. And I think Tennessee is a good example of that. You cannot replace that crew of guys. They're unreplaceable. I think we talked about it last week, didn't we? AJ, DK, and Deebo. Like those guys are dominant players. And there is no guarantee in the draft that the guy could be half as good as them, let alone ever sniff being as good as those guys. And they all do it differently. But Deebo, has been fat before. You go to practice, he's not Jerry Rice at practice.
Before or just as the same guy physically?
But remember, he came into camp a couple years ago out of shape. I guess he's always probably been bigger, but like out of shape.
Yeah.
Practice. If you didn't know, you wouldn't never give him the practice's hardest guy of the year award.
No, not winning a scout team player award.
And I just think, and it just in the pros, it doesn't fucking matter because he's got that in the bag. Like it's different, but Allen Iverson and Deebo practices, but Allen didn't show up. But and I'm not saying he doesn't take football seriously once the season starts, but I think coaches get hard-ons for like giving it all in OTAs and working hard August 7th. And like Ayuk, clearly pretty focused practice player this year. Deebo just feeling his way in. I don't care. Like I that's why you pay the big bucks for that. Like he's the only guy in the league that can really do that. But like there's a handful of guys, like I would imagine Cooper Kupp's like the hardest practicer. I think he is. I've heard McVay talk about him. Like, and he's awesome. Like he's honestly, he feels like he's headed to the Hall of Fame probably one day if he stays just on this production trajectory.
His production is going to be ridiculous, yeah.
But he's an excellent player. And listen, I like him. But like, I don't know. I think I'd rather go to war with Deebo.
Yeah, I mean, you're paying when you pay premium dollar, you want somebody that can do something that most other people can't do. And both of them are. I mean, Cooper produces.
Aaron Donald, Jalen's like that, Bosa's like that, Trent's like that. I mean, that's what you pay for. But like the gap at the highest level, it's like ultimately in college, like I can just keep recruiting. I'm gonna keep finding stars. Like in the pros, like Kyle could have 10 more year Niner career, and like he's never gonna have that again, right? Just like Sean McVay, whenever that guy calls it quits, they're never finding another 99. Like that's
right.
And
there
they
have been Cooper Kupps before, kind of.
Yeah,
and I don't want to denigrate. It's not even about. But to your point, like I've never watched Deebo before. Like Kyle can't get another Deebo, so why would he trade? Why would he have traded Deebo?
No.
Would have been like in hindsight when we talk about alternate universes, they would look like a different football team right now.
And it's also, he's 26 years old. Like it is probably a 2 or 3 year sweet spot here. He's not. I don't expect to see Larry Fitzgerald at 35, right?
No, I know, and that's what we keep saying. But I did wonder today watching him, like if he could have a long career, if Deebo Samuel could have a long prime, then sounds crazy because they haven't won a championship, and the Niners have all-time greats that have won titles, a lot of them, like Jerry and on and on and on. But if he has a long career as this Deebo Samuel, which I think we all just kind of go, well, you can't play long like this. Well, what if he can? Then we're, if they're in the playoffs a lot, then we're talking about, again, I hate to even say this out, but we're talking about an all-time great player in the franchise's history if he just is this guy for 6 more years.
He's having an all-time great like season and a half, right? You keep doing stuff like this.
Yeah. You just assume the physicality of it's going to be a challenge, but what if he overcomes it? What if he survives all that?
It's just, I say this all the time. I don't think we do a good enough job talking about quarterbacks. And when we were getting into the Jimmy Trey arguments, and I mean, Jimmy doesn't have the greatest instincts ever, but he definitely feels like a guy who's been playing quarterback a lot longer. Obviously, he has. He's older. And like Mitchell Trubisky is a good example, right? Mitchell just got benched for Pickett. And if you watch Mitchell play football,
didn't throw an incompletion.
You just see a guy. In fairness, his last pick was a Hail Mary at the end of the game. You watch Mitchell Trubisky, watch a guy with just no instincts. He's just playing the quarterback position as they tell him to play, and then just like if the play breaks down, he kind of freaks. And I think instincts, even at the highest level, instincts are something we don't talk about enough. Like you either obviously Hufunga is just an instinctive football player.
Yeah.
Aaron Donald, Cooper Kupp, these guys are just instinctive football players. And Deebo's instincts and just feel for being a football player. Like Kyle would tell you over beers, like, fuck, I can't teach half the shit he does. Like we ain't coaching this up. We try to get him the ball to then do what he does, right? We try to just let him be him. Andy Reid would tell you, like, I'm not coaching Tyreek Hill's speed or McDaniel. I'm just drawing a play to try to utilize his speed and then let him take over. And I think they do a good job. I was adamant, stop running these screens. Well, Denver was triggering a lot harder, it feels like, than the Rams were because they worked tonight.
Yeah.
They hit him like 3 or 4 times, didn't they?
Yeah.
You said they got a face mask on Ayuk's screen?
Well, it didn't get called, but before Golden missed the field goal, they were at the 30, so it was a 47-yarder. All you needed was to not take a sack, and Robbie, you'd be in his field goal range. And they throw that screen to Ayuk that got got 5 yards or something. And they just got lucky. I think Jennings, no, it wasn't Jennings. Somebody was out there, kind of grabbed a face mask on a block that didn't get called, and it might have pushed them out of field goal range, which whatever, they missed a field goal. So,
like I watched, I just typed into YouTube. You know, YouTube, if you just want to watch, like, especially the quarterback, like just Justin Fields throws against the Giants.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard because he's getting chased a lot of times, but I think a lot of people are going like, we don't see the instincts of playing the quarterback. He's getting, have you noticed his statistics are like historically terrible?
I have noticed. We talk about him every week.
But they weren't good again. I mean, it's just.
I know. We talked about him yesterday. Remember? It was like 8. I think, what did he complete? 8 yesterday? Or was that
yesterday
last week?
Been,
this week
yesterday might have been 9. Yeah. 9 or 11. I think they combined for 20. Maybe he had 11 and Daniel Jones had 9. It was an ugly game for the two of them.
He was 11 to 22.
He can make some wow throws, but I think sometimes you just go, is this guy a great athlete playing quarterback? Like you watch Lamar, you just go like, this guy was fucking born to kind of run the offense.
Somebody said, what was that video you watched on Fields? An 8-second video?
I'm nervous.
Yeah, well, I think
he does throw a beautiful deep ball. I'll give him that.
The easiest guys to see instincts on are running backs, right? Probably because you just watch the ball and you just watch them, and it's just the best player when you play pickup football. It's just the guy that gets the ball. And
why did Elijah Mitchell win the job in like 2 games, right?
Because it was obvious to all of us. You didn't need to be a scout or Kyle Shanahan to see it.
D lineman too. I think you just kind of.
Well, like a guy like Hufunga, right, needs to play in games probably for it to show. Maybe it shows up in the meeting rooms. Coaches can kind of tell that he's smart. I don't know.
Effort,
Yeah.
Special teams, like this guy just wants it.
But he's got to play in games for it to show. And
he's had a pretty legendary guy early 49er career. He had the fucking field goal touchdown, and then the Rams pick 6 on Monday Night Football.
Josh Norman ran off the field, didn't celebrate with the team. Too cold, needed a coat. Now he's gone, gone and forgotten.
Was like -10.
Gone and forgotten, you agree?
You're telling me he didn't celebrate with the guys in the end zone?
You watch the tape, 11 guys on the field, 10 of them are in the end zone, and Josh Norman makes a U-turn and goes to the sideline. I mean, he did like a jump up and down, but then he was out of there.
It was cold.
Maybe he wasn't on. Maybe he's not on extra point team. He was just good at subbing.
I still believe to my core, very lucky that the game was in the cold and not like a 70-degree day.
100%.
That would have been a bad matchup.
Totally. Would have been bad. Kyle Shanahan, speaking of instincts right now, his instincts are to score, get a lead, and then sit on the football until his defense can end the game and the clock hits zeros. You did not like Kyle Shanahan taking the field goal on 4th down, and what did it turn into? Like a 4th
yard and a half, maybe?
Because they lost like half a yard on the Jeff
I think
Wilson
they gave him a bad spot, though. And
Okay.
It was actually a little past the yard. It probably should have been closer to the 2, but I don't think it was as long as they deserved.
Got it. Okay, so they had a 4th down. They were up by 4, right? Is that what it was? No, that doesn't.
Up 5.
Up 5. So they kicked the extra point they kicked the field goal, to make it 8 at the beginning. This is the very start of the 4th quarter. So the question was, would an 8-point lead hold up for 1 quarter? Kyle's putting it on his defense. Now, as it turned out, we didn't have to totally find out because his defense scored him a touchdown. I thought it was defensible. You did not.
My main issue is we're not looking for Brandon Staley or John Harbaugh here being reckless with 4th down calls or being even aggressive at the end of the half. Kyle goes into halftimes a lot with timeouts.
Yeah.
And this game, I think that was symbolic that led to the second half decision. And McVay's very similar to this. For young offensive gurus, they are such stick in the muds when it comes to being aggressive. Let's rewind to the end of the half.
Yeah.
You can't fucking stick your finger or your toes into the water. You either got to jump in or just go into the house. And Kyle loves dipping his foot into the water, throws the screen. If that goes for 15 yards, then they'll get up quick, run another play, or call timeout.
Super Bowl.
I just fundamentally either kneel the fucking ball or run a normal play. Like, to me, you cannot make a Super Bowl run if your mindset's always going to be, and I'm not comparing, I understand they don't have Patrick Mahomes, but the reason Patrick Mahomes snapped on Eric Bieniemy, even though ironic, Eric doesn't call the plays. If you notice on Sunday Night Football, Andy's calling the plays. So
when he's mad at Andy, he yells at Eric.
The point is, pedal to the metal in a situation. If you want to just kneel it, okay. But you can't. I hate the half in, half out. And clearly that Kyle has made a career. And you'd be like, well, it's Jimmy, doesn't trust Jimmy. Well, so he didn't trust Trey either. He's just never going to trust a quarterback. That is kind of the knock on him. It takes him a long time to trust. Well, yeah, he trusts Deebo.
Well, I wouldn't trust either of them either.
But guy, to win these games, like, you can't. We all acknowledge the defense is really good. But we saw last week holding on for dear life. Like, I don't care if you're playing a Stafford, you're playing with Russell, and they're having a shitty game. At any moment, they can lead back-to-back touchdown drives.
Okay, so
and you're set 14 or 17 points. All of a sudden, you're down 21-17 because you were scared.
Two different things. Like, I think we can. I agree on Kyle's lack of aggressiveness. I disagree that I think there's logic to the way he manages the end of the first half. Let's see if we can hit a play. I don't know why he has to kneel on the football. Let's see if we can hit a play. And then let's see if we can hurry it up.
They're going to run the screen.
That's fine. But I mean, there's no reason to kneel on the football. Let's see if we hit a play. If not, I don't think the Rams had enough timeouts to get the ball back anyway.
They didn't.
So, it didn't end up really hurting them. I mean, to me, there wasn't illogic in it. Like, it was logical. Let's see if we can hit a play. Now, the counter is, well, if you hit a play, like at the end of the Chiefs' first half Super Bowl, there's not enough time left for you to take advantage of it. In this case, there was. They had the timeouts and they had the time. Now, Aikman made a good point after the first play only went for 6 yards. He's like, you're not going to call a timeout. That's fine. But run a play where guys are in the formation on the same side. Now you're running them across. You're taking too much time. I have a problem with the efficiency of it. I don't have a problem with, let's see if there's anything here. If not, let's shut it down. Because I do think there is good reason to not trust your quarterback.
That is a fair – okay, maybe your criticism holds even more weight than mine. They ran the play where they weren't even prepared if it hit what to do, because Jimmy's going like this, and Troy was right. But here's the thing, and again, I'm going to use an example. I'm not comparing to Mahomes or to Tom Brady, but Tom Brady did tell Peyton and Eli last year that when they defer, him and Bill always approach that as a double whammy. We get to separate, right? If we get the ball with under 2 or 3 minutes left to go in the first half, we know we're getting the ball. We're getting minimum double scores. A touchdown, and at minimum a field goal. So we're getting 10 to 14 points. Now, I get it's Tom fucking Brady, but where's that mindset? Do
you think Kyle would call it differently if Pat Mahomes or Josh Allen were his quarterback?
Yeah, but he's never going to be the quarterback for the foreseeable
future. I understand, but that's why you went and drafted. But this is why you drafted Trey Lance.
But he's 2 years away from even thinking about doing that with Trey.
But I'm saying the reason. But he was 2 years away in the 2019 Super Bowl from 2021, and he drafted Trey Lance in 2021. Here we go. Now, Trey Lance isn't their quarterback right now, but I don't think that's what he wants to do.
But he clearly wasn't going to do that with Trey right now either.
Well, not right now, but my point is he clearly understood he has to upgrade from his quarterback that he can't trust to do everything.
Now, reality is I'm arguing over this. He's not going to change at the end of the half. He's going to have no problem going to halftime with timeouts.
Is there good reason to distrust Jimmy at the end of the half?
Like, what's the point in paying all these guys of not being aggressive, especially when you have the lead?
Is there reason to distrust Jimmy at the end of a half?
I don't think you can always do that and expect to win all these games against good teams. You're playing the Chiefs.
Yeah, I just
playing the Raiders coming up.
But when you're the score at the half was what, 14-6? Niners were up 14-6 at halftime.
14-6, yeah.
And they were getting the ball first to start the second half, right?
Yes.
So his thinking is, even if I don't score here, if we can score to start the second half, we can make it a three-score game.
My point, guy, is this symbolic. I'm with you. The score, if you're going to be conservative, you're up a score, you're getting the ball. I do get it, but he would do that 20-6, tie game. Like, that is his move, right? Do we agree with that?
We agree with that. And I just, to me, I separate.
He will go into halftime with timeouts.
I separate the end of the first half, the way he manages that, from the other stuff that we can talk about that happened in the second. To me, those
I agree. They're two separate things, but they do have they're cousins.
They have similar traits. I think I am more with you criticism on the way he manages the second half than the way he manages the end.
Because in the second half situation, when it's 14-9, MIDDLEKAUFF, a field goal puts him up 8. I get that. Like, obviously, the most you can score in one position is 8 points. So you cannot lose. But I don't even, is that the third quarter when he did that? That was the beginning of the fourth, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, they got stopped at the end of the third quarter. That was the end of the quarter. So at the beginning of the fourth quarter, they had the third down play.
Okay.
So the Jeff Wilson run was second down, end of the third, fourth quarter starts.
So I'm just going to pick a normal number that the Rams, whether you get to fourth down and kick the field goal or go for it, are going to get 3 more possessions. I'll just pick 3. It could be 4, right? Depending on how a quarter goes.
Yeah, could be 2, but
I think
what the first quarter was, because
I would lean typically 3, in fourth quarters. But like the previous week, when you're in that situation, the scores are a little different. This one ensures that on one possession you can't lose it. It does feel like you're just holding on to that rope, praying to God that you don't get in a tie situation.
Yeah.
And if Denver turns out to be a playoff team, who knows? Maybe, maybe not. The Rams, like, clearly they are the cream of your division. They won the Super Bowl. You've been beating them, but like, you are held to their standard. You're chasing what they got. You're in this situation where they've had a quarterback, again, who's struggling, like Russell was last week, who at any moment could go 4 plays, 4 first downs, touchdown to Higbee or Cup, and none of us would be shocked. Even though your defense is awesome. It's football. It's really, really difficult. Why not? I am paying you if I'm Jed York. I hate to even use this, but if I'm Jed York and I'm paying you money that's not really mine, but kind of mine, I have access to, $15 million a year, and you're one of the best offensive coaches in America, high school, college, or pro. You have 2 plays with elite tight end talent, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Juice. You're just array of 2 decades, really 3, because you probably stole your dad's plays, of just plays. Kubiak's plays, you fucking got them all.
Mike McDaniel's plays that you have the rights to.
Yeah, you got them all. I mean, anything. Boots, nakeds, nudes, throwbacks, Tim Tebow. I don't even know. I want to see a play that I've never seen. Someone text me, listener to this podcast, Scotty Raber, who's in Hawaii, goes on a lot of vacations. He's like, you know what's crazy?
Golf season hasn't started yet.
Diehard Niner guy. He's like, he's watching the game last night. He's like, I'm 30 years old. I've been watching Andy Reid my entire life. I feel like every time I watch his team play, I see a play that I've never really seen before. And he's always coming up with innovative stuff. He's like, why doesn't Kyle do that? I'm like, well, the difference is, I don't know if Andy's tied to an offense. He's tied to just creating plays, where Kyle is tied to an offense. So I get they're 2 separate minds. But why can't he just have a couple plays in that you're paying Kyle more than Jimmy? That's Kyle's moment. Like, that's scheme the play. I have no problem with running it, getting stuffed on second down. I get it. Try to hammer it home. Cool with it. We got two downs to go Jeffrey Dahmer. It's a long time ago.
I haven't watched it yet. Was it good?
Yeah, it just killed a lot of people. Jeffrey Dahmer just put the nail in the coffin. Jeffrey didn't have coffins. He just cut their bodies up. But just destroy it. Win the game. A touchdown basically would feel like 21-9 would win the game. And of course, I get a text from someone who's there. The field goal unit's coming out. Of course it is. And it turned out Hufunga,
I texted you after the second down play. He was kicking the field goal.
Yeah, because I asked you. I'm like, do you think he'll kick a field goal? Yes. I text about 3 other people. They're like, yeah, he'll kick a field goal.
He's kicking it to go up 8.
For some reason, I'm hopeful. I'm like, he's not going to go for the fucking kill shot here. No. And 5 minutes later, MIDDLEKAUFF, see, this is why. Bullshit. Like, I can't expect the Polynesian Ronnie Lott to have a pick 6. I felt like they were going to drive tie the game, and then we're a Ray fumble away from them getting the ball on the 20-yard line and punching it in. All of a sudden, the Niners lose by like 5. Like, what the hell just happened? Because when you coach, I'm not asking for Brandon Staley or John Harbaugh being crazy. I don't think it's that crazy to ask him to go for it there. Like, the John Harbaugh fourth down.
I'm not saying it's crazy at all.
But he just won't.
I'm not saying it's crazy. I do think
conservative.
I do think ultimately to win a championship, he will have to do some of that. I did understand today even if the Rams drive the field, they're not scoring in the red zone. Your defense.
Well, what's the difference this week than last week? And look how last week happened. Very similar, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You're not going to win a championship with it. But I do think it's defensible. Like, you're talking like it's not defensible. Like,
I'm not acting like it's not defensible. Okay. I just fundamentally disagree with that mindset. It worked. Like, it's not in the history of the league, guy, in like the 80s and 90s, that is always the move when your defense is playing like that. I just think in modern day football, And I'm not pretending to be always chart Brandon Staley, John Harbaugh, but I do think there's a time and a place, and I think that was a moment. It's kind of an FU to them too. Now, Hufunga bailed him out, and I'm not giving Kyle credit on that one.
Well, or their defense just did what it had been doing all game. That's what Kyle would argue, right? My defense just did what it was doing.
Kind of. I mean, they were driving. Hufunga made an incredible play.
They drove the whole game, and then they got stopped in the red zone. Like the Niners defense didn't, I mean, they weren't giving up touchdowns. They weren't giving up touchdowns, right?
What are the chances if the Rams had scored on that drive that Ray holds on to the ball in the next kick return?
By the way, Marlon Mack, worth the signing. He's the one that recovered the fumble. I told you the second I saw Ray hit that hole with one arm on the ball, I knew it was bad news. I knew it was bad. And I said, I'm done with him. It's his second fumble, and then he had a great return. But to stick on Kyle for a second, yeah, I think he's fundamentally got to get more aggressive. I agree. But I understand that play. The other thing he might say, we haven't heard him talk after the game. I'm rotating one guard spot. I got to back up at the other guard spot. The last play, the second down play we ran, Bobby Wagner came flying through like a banshee and swallowed up Jeff Wilson Jr.
That was a sweet hitting the whole trigger play.
I don't know if he didn't have confidence. You texted me Jimmy Sneak. I actually would have liked the Jimmy Sneak play on second down. I think if you run the Jimmy Sneak play 3 times, you're going to score on one of them, right? Like I would just Jimmy Sneak it.
Has Jimmy ever not got the sneak?
Inside the 1.5, I would Jimmy Sneak it. So
maybe he'd tell you, 99 at any moment could just cause a fumble. They could pick it up, who knows?
It could be, but to me, that's such a low. Like if that happens, that happens. You got beat on a fumble, like whatever.
What? But I mean, he like smokes one of your guards in the backfield.
I know. I'm just saying, like that wouldn't. I just blame the player. That wasn't the right call.
Here's my point, guy.
Wrong call.
He has. He's been coaching now at a high level and creating this mind for 20 years. He used to talk about when he was young, he would just go home and watch sweet players, just developing these. Can you imagine just how many plays he has on the 1-yard line? Got to have a touchdown. You can't tell me he doesn't have 5 on that sheet.
A Deebo pass.
Whatever it is. I tweeted this out. These next 2 downs, this is when I was semi-hopeful. This is why I paid Kyle. That was not on Deebo, Kittle, Jimmy. That's Kyle. Scheme this motherfucker. Get us in the end zone if I'm Jed York.
And but it might not be that. It's not that he didn't call the. I don't think it's that he didn't go for it because he didn't have a play, right? He wanted to go up 8. You know what I mean? Like if you had said, Kyle, you have to go for this, he'd be like, okay, I got 5 plays I like. You know what I'm saying? Don't you think?
I don't know.
It's not that he didn't have a play that he liked. It's that he was not going to get stopped on the 1-yard line.
I think his inclination is just to lean, and you can say it's Mahomes or Brady. He had those guys. He would always go. I think he tends to be a conservative
I'm not saying
coach.
that. I'm saying the end of the first half is completely different. That's my point.
No. I just mean in all the situations.
What I'm saying is they're not the same. Like I think if he had Mahomes, he might have kicked that field goal. That's what I'm saying. I think
I'm in agreement.
Well, right, but I'm also saying if he had Mahomes, he would have tried to drive the field at the end of the first half. That's why I separate that thing. I think,
but those two you could use other examples too. I just think he will always lean conservative. That's been the knock on him. That why he likes certain quarterbacks. Like
it wasn't the knock on him in the Super Bowl.
He likes to play a certain way
against the Patriots.
He likes to play a certain way.
Wasn't the knock on him against the Patriots?
I wonder if that rattled him.
Maybe. Right? That was when he took the Niners job, nobody was talking about how Kyle's conservative.
We have not felt that, have we? Just watching him coach?
No, I don't think so.
Now, he was not the head coach, but maybe that did jar him.
He was of the offense.
Maybe that jarred him.
He also trusted Matt Ryan much more than he trusted Jimmy.
Maybe his comeback would be like, have you ever blown a 28-3 lead? Like, yeah, I haven't.
Have you ever had Barstool getting the entire nation to paste 28-3 on mailboxes throughout the country? People dress up for Halloween as a scoreboard that says 28-3. Someone's going to
have you ever met a team that blew a game that the assistant coach gets blamed? Yeah, I do. That's me. No one even knows who was the head coach of the 28-3 team. You'd be like, Dan Reeves? I don't even. Do you think most people know Dan Quinn like immediately? I think you have to think about it.
People, they think first of Kyle.
Who blew the Atlanta Falcons Super Bowl? I think everyone. Oh yeah, Kyle Shanahan ran the. He was
when really it was Devontae Freeman. Wasn't that Freeman that didn't pick up the pressure?
Yeah, and
was running wide
Matt
open.
Ryan went like that. Yeah, Matt Ryan's cooked.
Matt Ryan is. They worked out that they didn't end up with Matt Ryan somehow in some crazy way.
But if you tell me that when Jimmy's gone next year, Matt Ryan's cut and Matt Ryan comes here, I can already see it coming from a mile away.
I don't know if he's gonna have anything left, John.
Well, that's not what Kyle thinks.
I could make something out of him.
And then he's skipping balls to Deebo, and Deebo's furious.
Do we have anything else from that game? Anything else we had to hit on? Oh, while you're looking, let me just tell you, Clinton paid $10, so I'll read it. If he hadn't paid $10, I wouldn't have read this one. But the other day, you talked about how McDaniel was different than Staley since players loved him. Wrong. Ramsey and Mac raved about Staley. Jalen called him the best coach he'd ever had at any level. Check the quotes.
Yeah, he's probably a good assistant coach. I mean, a lot of guys have done well, as the coordinators, right?
That's true. Kittle laid out 52 on one of those screens to Ayuk. Yeah, he was
underrated. Play tonight was the Ayuk shove of the linebacker on Deebo's play. I think 53 didn't.
That one.
I'm talking about the 57-yard play at the end. Ayuk's kind of not hot dogging it, but I think the linebacker feels like he's not going to touch me. And then Ayuk at the end goes sack town, fucking shoves him. He gets airborne. I don't think he thought, because Ayuk's.
Oh, that's it.
Felt like he had like a hot dog run to him. Like, bro, he's just going to go. And then at the end, he gives him a shove and he flies.
That makes sense, actually. Because I wondered how Ayuk was able to block him that way. But maybe that he thought that.
Well, if you notice, Ayuk's not full sprinting. He's cruising, and then he extends the arms. 53 goes. He got depleted by a shove. I mean, flown in the air. They're going to get, that dude, do you ever see the guy that on Twitter that pretends to be a coach and makes fun of all the guys?
Like Coach Go 30 or something like that?
Yeah, and just rips
His
on
name's
everybody.
Clinton, I think, yeah.
What tomorrow or Wednesday in the meeting room when they go over that play, like what are even the coaching points? It's like there are some plays in football.
It'd be like 4, you didn't want it, right? It's always something like that.
Yeah.
You made a business, you thought about it, then you made a business decision.
Here's 27 pissing down his leg.
That's all. Here's 4, has a chance to make the tackle, spent too much time playing video games, not enough time in the weight room, arm tackle broken.
Yeah.
That guy's better at it than me, but you're right.
He's
always pissing down his
it.
leg. Pissing down his leg is always the one.
He's good at it. And then he ends it with a mama joke about one of the guy's moms, how he's having sex with him or something. He's just, it just works. It's like Joey Molinaro. Their stuff just works.
It's fucking fantastic. On the stream, Jay Media says, comment, Jimmy G, comeback player of the year. I don't think so.
I'd give it to Cooper Rush.
Cooper Rush?
I don't know if he could even win the award.
I mean, when OBJ comes back, did you catch that? Not that it's news to anybody, but Bucker Aikman, they've basically been told when OBJ passes a physical, he'll be back on the Rams because they basically said that tonight. Again, I don't think anyone's surprised by it.
I didn't catch that.
Well, he was just, I think Buck was like, well, I think it's, he almost said when Odell comes back, and then he made the comment, was like, well, I think a lot of people would be surprised if Odell's not back on the Rams. I think somebody on the Rams, I bet McVay told him, like, yeah, we think we'll sign him when he comes back. It makes total sense, right, for Odell.
Well, yeah, he just immediately comes back and plays.
Yeah, it might be there. I think Higbee was good, but
they gave Allen Robinson a lot of money to just do nothing.
Yeah.
I had a buddy with the Bears that always thought that he liked Allen, but he thought Allen had a little false sense of how good he was. I think Allen, because remember for years, like, Allen and the Bears, not seeing eye to eye on the contract.
2 years ago, wasn't he like demanding a trade or something? 2 years ago?
Yeah, I just think he's had some good years early on in his career. I don't know about Allen Robinson.
Yeah, I think he had 2 catches today. If it's gonna work, it hasn't started working yet, but
no,
I guess there's still a lot of time. Early line on the Niners game, John. It opened Niners -2.5. Right now at the DraftKings Sportsbook, it's
3.5,
4.5.
The Niners on the road -4.5.
-4.5. Yep.
My first reaction is probably a stay away from me.
Feels like a 14-7 game and a backdoor cover, maybe with a. Well, I guess it wouldn't be a field goal backdoor cover. That'd be weird. Maybe a.
No, they would. If it was 14-7 and they got a field goal, they'd cover 10 to.
Yeah, Niners will cover. I'm saying a Panthers backdoor, like 21-7. I don't know. We have to figure. Someone would have to figure out the backdoor cover, but you know what I'm saying. Like Niners up, comfortable. You're not thinking much. Third quarter, halfway through.
This is where the Niners really keep people off their scent, because they have moments at Denver like, oh, Kyle's fucked. Everyone's gonna get fired. Jimmy Garoppolo's gonna ruin their season. Then they'll play on prime time. It's like, Jesus, look at this team. They got dudes everywhere. They can kick your ass. Nick Bosa, defensive player of the year. Deebo's the greatest player we've ever seen. Yeah. And then next week, they'll be on the road against some 4-win team. They'll be like 8-point favorite on the road. And all of a sudden, it'll be Niners currently down 17-13 headed into the fourth quarter. It's like against a 6-win Panther team.
You're right. The key to the Niners is not just that they win the week before. It's that they win like 24-9 and don't give up a touchdown.
Yeah, they're a hard team to like figure out. There aren't the trends. They'll buck you off fast. It's like Mike Vrabel, Mike Tomlin, John Harbaugh coming off a loss, big road underdog, hammer them. Like the Niners, I don't know if they're trends.
I'm with you. That's a great question.
It's like I would bet against the Niners, and then they'll win by 2 touchdowns.
Now, were you watching the pregame when Jerry Rice came out and caught a touchdown from Steve Young?
I had it on mute, and I saw Jerry come out, and then
So I just got out of the shower. I had it playing on my phone, wasn't watching. And all I heard was Susie or whoever say,
it's Susie, yeah.
Susie was like, all right, before we get out of here, there's one more thing we got to do. And I swear to God, I didn't know what it was, but I knew it was Jerry Rice was appearing to catch a pass from Steve. There was no doubt in my mind that Jerry was not going to let that moment pass. And, of course, that's apparently.
Do you think Steve didn't know it was coming?
I didn't see it, so I don't know. Did you see it? Did you have a take after you saw it?
Yeah, I just looked up and there's, Jerry in a suit running.
It's as predictable as anything that's predictable. Is national TV game at Levi's, ESPN and Steve, but Jerry's just going to appear. Jerry's just going to be there.
Do you think if Kyle looked at Jerry dead serious, Jerry, we'll sign you a 1-day contract, you will dress, and we might give you a play? Like if you said that to Steve Young, he would say no. Right? You said that to most players,
Harris Barton,
no. Larry Fitzgerald, no. Jerry Rice would be like, Kyle, not only do you think I can make a play this game, like, keep me the rest of the season.
He'd say, I've been waiting for you to ask.
Would you say Terrell Owens, even on a higher level, just no one asked him to do this shit, like wanting to play?
Yeah.
Have you seen like he'll just run a 40 and he'll be like 4-4? Jerry does look old. Tio still looks pretty like Tio. Like Jerry looks in his 50s.
Yeah, with a little gray in his beard, right?
I feel like Jerry, wasn't quite hip and gets tattoos like in his 50s. I saw Jerry had a bunch of tattoos. Like, Jerry, I don't remember you having tattoos when you were playing.
I didn't realize that.
I think he's got some tattoos older in life, trying to be a little hipper,
I did not.
It's like, Jerry, you're 56 years old and retired. Rice is 50. You know
59,
what?
John, it's almost Jerry Rice's birthday week. He's 60 in 10 days.
How old would you guess Jerry Rice was?
50. You said 56. I was like, John, I think he's probably 52. 59.
I guess. Well, you know what?
He played for 20 years.
Guy, he was 40 with the Raiders when they made the Super Bowl in 2002.
Exactly. I mean, he came in the league in the 80s and he played 20 years.
He feels younger, doesn't he? He got a younger vibe.
100%. Yep.
Do you think Steve colors his hair?
Yeah, I think so.
How great? Do you think he'd be all white, or would you just streaks?
Hard to know. It's just because you're white on the sides doesn't mean you're white on the top.
Like Greg Papa, would he be all white, or would he just be?
I don't know.
Mike Krzyzewski.
Are you saying Greg colors his hair?
Well, let's face it. Anyone over 50 with just luscious, thick hair is most of the time coloring their hair. Correct?
Most of the time, yes. But I've seen Greg up close, and I feel like you can tell, and I can't. I've never thought that. Like with Steve, I feel like I can kind of see it. Like Steve Levy, I think that's what Coach K would look like. Remember when Steve Levy just cold turkey stopped dyeing his hair? Just one day you saw Steve Levy, it was just all white hair.
Good point.
Steve Levy, one day you looked up and he was just all white hair. And it looks good on him. He's got thick hair.
It does make you look older, right? It just adds, even if you look young and are in good shape. Steve Phillips, just looks 5 years older than however old he is, just all
Right.
white,
Yeah, and he was white. He probably had white hair very young, right?
I would guess it is
like
30s, right?
Also, great jawline, helped offset. Really good looking guy. In his
The
time.
all white goatee is always like, you could be 50, but you kind of feel 56.
Who pulls that one off?
No, Steve Phillips always has the white goatee. I do think that Coach K, when you do jet black and you're actually 7 years old, it does, like, you didn't know. You're like, oh, he's 58. It can make you look younger for sure.
58.
You agree? Like, Coach K doesn't look, maybe he's aged a little bit the last couple of years, but there was a time like in his mid to late 60s where he could have, if you just, someone didn't know.
Maybe. I would guess if you like sat with him.
Yeah, you're probably right.
You'd probably be able to tell.
Well, like Boeheim always felt old, I mean, he is. He's like 80.
Yeah. Does this not count Bosa? Yeah, Bosa had one tonight, right? So 5 sacks. People are in the chat are saying he's the league leader in sacks. He's tied with is Khalil Mack and Rashawn Gary, but the league leader for sacks, unless did Bosa get a half sack tonight? The league leader is Alex Highsmith.
TJ Watt's replacement.
Linebacker for the Steelers. Did Bosa get 1.5? I had him for 1, but
I never know the rules on that.
No, Bosa got 2. Bosa had 2 tonight? I've been saying he had 1 tonight, so my mistake. My bad. Did he get he didn't get any sack for being like underneath when Diamador Lenore came and took.
Didn't he get a sack toward the end?
Oh, is that what it was?
I think, yeah.
So he has 6 now. So he is the league leader. All right.
I mean, Myles Garrett just rolled his Porsche about 3 times, so who knows if he's ever coming back.
Did you see what the speed was? I saw excessive speed, but I didn't see a number.
Well over 100, I think they said.
When
you get in the car accident, go to the hospital, people are very concerned for your safety, and then a day later the cops charge you. That's usually a pretty right.
Yeah. Well, if you this sounds bad, I'm not making like a joke, but if you tell me, oh yeah, somebody got in somebody in a Porsche crashed their car, I just assume that there's speeding involved.
I don't think people quite understand, and I've never been in the high-end Porsche. I was in a high-end Corvette one time. Just because you're rich doesn't mean you have the capability to drive these things. The power in which they have, just Myles Garrett now, I think, has been in a couple. Like, bro, you're not a good enough driver. Like, you shouldn't have the capability to get behind the wheel if you can't handle it. Most people can't. Like, most people can handle high-end motorcycles. The power in which they have, like, bro, just get a fucking Suburban. What are you doing? You're gonna kill yourself.
I have a buddy whose older brother is extremely wealthy, and he had like one of those Lamborghini type sports cars. And he said one time he was driving around some curve in like Southern California and like hit a pebble, and the thing it like scared the shit out of him. He's like, he got rid of it. He's like, I cannot control this vehicle. I'm lucky.
Sports cars just don't do anything for me. I mean,
you got to get in them all funny. Bobby Wagner on the fan who ran on the field. You don't know what that fan got or what they're doing. You see it all the time. And we don't know what they're carrying in their pockets. It's whatever that little smoke stuff is, but that shit could be dangerous. So basically he was like, I'm going to save the world just in case this is somebody doing something crazy. Clearly, I mean, that guy took a hit just so he could try and free some little puppies for adoption.
Yeah, freerescue.com. Do you check out the website?
I didn't want to. I didn't because I figured I knew what it was and I didn't want it to work because I want those people to stop. So I didn't want it because right now they're getting the hits on the website and they're like, it's working.
I'm so glad.
Even though that guy's got a concussion.
So glad that guy got destroyed. God, that beside the Niners winning, that was the highlight of my night. Honestly, he didn't hit him hard enough.
It felt like he got like helmet, right? Like he might be bleeding or something.
Couldn't hit him hard enough for my enjoyment. That guy should be hit
a little more of a spear, but it probably hurt like hell.
That was awesome.
Running around with this pink fucking.
To me, the thing that pisses me off the most is obviously people finance these guys to buy these tickets.
Right.
It's just what God, our society, man. What are we doing?
How do you get in with that can? Are they not looking for that can? Because I have to take everything out of my pockets. They look through my bag.
Do you
Yeah, when you go through a metal detector, you got to empty your pockets. Then they go through your bag.
Put it into Zanus.
It's a big gap.
I'm being serious. I mean, you're right. How do you get through?
Well,
Wouldn't the
maybe it's
thing
not.
go bing
Maybe
bing?
I'm wrong. Maybe it's not a can. I thought it was like a big old can. With the
Well, that guy that forwarded us, the Tito's in the in the pants. Remember that?
in the pants, yeah. At an A&M game. Is that what it was?
I think so. The guy brought in a handle of Tito's.
Did you see the Wisconsin Paul Christ? They fired him. He was owed 20. He took 11 just to walk away.
Oh, I thought it was 16.
I read 11 that he gave up $9 million.
How much money is the Big Ten making to pay these guys to leave?
Well, it is the SEC now. They are on track with the SEC. Right?
Are those two programs going to be competing for the same level guy?
Which two?
Wisconsin and Nebraska.
I think Wisconsin's a better job, right? At this point, like his record was very good.
Didn't he win the Rose Bowl like 4 or 5 years ago?
Yeah, I mean he competes for the Big Ten championship game.
Wasn't he an alum? Wasn't he like an alumni?
He's a former quarterback. I saw somebody say he spent most of his life there
because he was he Bielema's offensive coordinator or
he'd
been there, he was an assistant coach there for sure.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Didn't he coach at Pitt for a split second and then left for that job? Am I getting the right, Chris?
Yep.
Is this Jeep's brother?
Maybe actually. Yeah.
Chris,
yep,
man.
It's Jeep's brother.
He was a quarterback there from 86. Think about this guy. I guess Bielema probably wasn't his coach. I was going to say, if your college coach, who then is the AD, has to fire you, that sucks. They were only 2-3, but I think the eye test was pretty bad.
Well, they got beat pretty bad this last weekend. Did you see College Game Day is going to Kansas this week? I don't know if it's
I try to downplay your guy, but I mean, shit.
Lance
is that guy
Leipold,
going to get one of these jobs?
Well, he might get that. To me, like he might get the Wisconsin job.
Well, I think Nebraska wants him, right? Too, isn't he?
Nebraska would want. They should. Yeah.
I know the Washington fans before Chip Kelly kicked his ass thought that DeBoer could be a one and done like Nebraska. He's from the Midwest.
Is he? I thought he's from like
the Dakotas.
Yeah, the Dakotas.
But like Nebraska could be all over him.
Oh, that's interesting.
But you lose that game, probably.
You still have a good year.
Dims a little.
Yeah, it does dim a little. But you can still have a good year. I mean,
Colorado. But like no one could argue if he goes 11-1 at Washington, Nebraska offered him, $70 million or something, right?
It's not like suddenly they're going to start spending less on coaches. They're going to start spending more.
Wasn't that the going rate? I mean, all these guys lately have gotten $95 million.
Well, think about it. The average person says, I just spent a lot of money this month. I should spend less money next month. Nebraska just paid an extra $7 million. If they had just waited until like today or whatever, this week, right? Remember, they had to wait till this week. They would have saved $7 million if they waited to fire Scott Frost this week instead of 3.5 weeks ago. Well, they just spent the $7 million to fire him 3 weeks early. They're not about to try and save money. They're about to spend more money. That's how this works.
What would you guess the total amount of the contract that these programs offer their next coaches?
Yeah, 80. I mean, that's what Mel got, right?
Mel got 95, 90? I thought.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's going to be fucking, I don't know, maybe 60. Maybe it's 60. Maybe it's 60. However the math breaks down on a 5-year contract.
Well, are we sure Venables lasts more than a year?
No. Stoops is around. Stoops might be coaching by week 8.
I'd say Venables in a little trouble.
I agree. Yes.
Have you noticed too the Big 12?
The Big 12's not bad.
You know who's kicking people's asses? Mike Gundy. And listen, I know it was ugly what happened with his brother reading the N-word off the iPad, and it was someone told me he kind of lied about it. It was weird the way the whole thing happened.
Fired his brother for people who don't follow that.
Venables story. Did, yeah. Who's Mike
Venables
Gundy's
fired
brother.
Gundy's brother, yeah.
And Gundy's brother had played quarterback at Oklahoma, had been there for like 2 decades. I could just see Gundy trying to put a nail in Venables' coffin when he gets him at Venables is like 4-6 at the time or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched a lot of Gundy. They're good. They went on the road to Baylor and kind of took it to them.
What do you think of their quarterback?
Not bad. I mean, they just had their skill guys. I mean, they have a running back. Their defense is good. They had a kickoff return. They just feel like they got dudes. Gundy feels like he's just running a pretty high-level program right now. I mean, last year they went 11-2, beat Notre Dame.
I mean, he's got to be
undefeated.
one of the longest tenured coaches in the country for good reason.
Who's Venables? Sonny Dykes is kicking people's asses. I guess he just beat Venables, huh?
Yeah. What do you guys think about Arizona? They beat North Dakota State 2 weeks ago, and they just got Carl Durrell fired at Colorado. I will say this for Arizona.
What's their record?
Lost to Mississippi State 3-1.
It turns out Mississippi State might not be bad.
Yeah, Leach is actually they play somebody this week actually.
Well, they just beat Texas A&M.
Oh, maybe that's what I was thinking of.
Leach just beat Texas A&M like this last week.
It's a good thing that Jimbo signed a contract extension through like 2032 that's fully guaranteed.
His buyout is $110 million.
It's just the contract. There's no buyout. It's the whole thing.
Is it seriously? Is that what it is?
Yeah, it's the fully guaranteed contract. It's like, I mean,
what's he like, Russell Westbrook?
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, it's like the contract that Aaron.
So talking about firing Jimbo for several years is just stupid. Like he's not going
unless they just pay $100 million for him to go away, or 90 or 80 or whatever.
It ain't going well, guy.
No, it's bad. Mississippi State plays Arkansas this week. That's another really good game.
That's a good game.
But Arizona, I'm telling you, they got 3 really good receivers, like really good. They're actually Arizona's pretty fun to watch. They play Oregon this week, so you'll probably end up seeing them one way or another.
Chip's next 2 games are Oregon and Utah, aren't they? Does he have a bye this week?
It's Utah. No, he plays Utah this week. UCLA, Utah this week.
I feel like Utah's got their mojo back.
Utah's got some mojo. Yeah. Utah's got some mojo. Then he hits his bye. Then he plays Oregon. Next week, Washington State plays SC this week. That's another kind of good game.
Who did Oregon just play? Oh, Stanford.
Oregon just beat Stanford badly. Quickly, I can confirm for you. I asked Kenny, I sent a little DM to Kenny Dillingham, and I said, what is Phil Knight's favorite play? He said Spider 2, why banana? But
are you buddies with Dillingham?
Yeah, he just started following me the other day, so we started DMing, and I said, let's get you the ASU job. But I asked Nick Aliotti. I was like, does Phil Knight, is that normal? Because Nick was the defensive coordinator for a long time for Oregon. He was Chip's DC. And he said, yes. Phil would always sit in the back with the headset on. He's like, never once said a word. Never once did I feel like he was bad-mouthing me or talking about anything. But it's weird. But he's like, hey, what are you going to do? I mean, he's the owner of the team, basically, and he's a good guy, and I never had a problem with
Phil,
it. So.
goddammit, you get out of this box right now.
Could you imagine? Your last game that
Phil,
you coached.
I swear to God, I'll take off these shoes and this shirt if you don't get out of this goddamn box and I can call this game. I don't care if you're giving $500 million to this program. I can't have the pressure of you sitting here next to me.
Big game, John. Fresno State or Boise State this week. Does not have the same juice to it right now.
No.
Dogs are coming off the worst loss of the weekend, maybe to UConn, and Boise has already fired people. Boise's starting quarterback is already in the portal. So
I saw what's his name? Ravel trying to make a big deal. He's like, NIL, because a bunch of guys go in the portal. It's like, yeah, guys go in the portal right now to conserve eligibility and not burn a year. It has nothing to do like NIL has forced guys to quit on their team. This has happened in the history of college football forever. Guys basically quit right around right now to not burn a year.
Especially in the last few years, remember when they made the rule that you can redshirt if you only play four games.
And then obviously you can transfer and you still got a year of eligibility.
Yeah,
I tweeted this out while I was watching some of the USC ASU game. And it's a little different, but I remember when I was scouting, I went to USC's practice and they had Robert Woods and Marquise Lee. And at the time, Marquise
Middlecoff really liked Robert Woods. No one wanted to listen to him in the draft.
No, it was just next to Reggie Wayne. He's turned out to have a pretty good career. That those two guys, you just went to practice, and Marquise was better than Robert Woods then. Marquise Lee is like one of the best USC players post Pete Carroll. He was incredible in college. I do think there are some vibes with those two kids, number 3 and number 4, just like these two guys could just take over a game. And Caleb just throws seeds. I just underestimated the small guy. Like, I get why Lincoln likes him. He can move. He's sweet. He's got a hose. He's got a big time arm.
Yeah.
I just like watching those 3 players, Caleb and those 2 receivers.
I know. And Jordan Addison feels like a pro when you watch him. Like, he plays like a pro. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that he's flashy. He just looks like I just feel like he's going to look exactly the same in the NFL as he looks in college.
I like Dye's picture, too, when they show him on the screen with the mustache.
Like, sleeveless, swagless. As Shane Vereen's like swagless.
He's got gloves, no filling in the middle of the mustache, just the edges.
I think Cam Ward, the Washington State quarterback, I think all the hype on him preseason, he got a little bit of a slow start. Still doesn't do like still doesn't like, organize a 4-minute drive to beat Oregon, but he does some crazy impressive. He does some impressive shit. He does like some highlight reel shit.
They're pretty good.
Wazoo.
Yeah, like they feel like a 9-win team to me.
Yeah, I mean, their loss was to Oregon. They beat Wisconsin on the road. So what does that mean? They got 1, 2, 3 wins, 4 wins. They play at SC this week, which they could win that game. SC's not stopping anybody.
What time is that game?
I don't have that in front of me. I think it's like an evening. I think it's a 5:00 game on Fox. I think.
I'm in.
Yeah, there's 2 Fox Pac-12 games. Actually, you know what's awesome? 9 a.m. is Kansas TCU Pacific.
That's pretty good. One thing I hope with Cam Ward, it's like Mel Kiper. People are already putting his name, and he was buzzing. I remember we mentioned him before the season started. Like, he should just stay at school a couple years and just keep getting better. But, if there's talk, like he'd go in the top 50, like he does feel. If you had to bet right now, is Cam Ward back at Washington State next year? I don't know. I don't know nothing about the guy, but
how many quarterback? It's like you'd probably need at least. We know there's at least 3 first-rounders, right? 4. Definitely Kentucky, Alabama, Ohio State, right?
Locks.
Top 10. Hooker, Tennessee. Caleb can't come out this year.
I don't know if there are any locks between
Florida,
those 3 guys.
Richardson, Florida.
No.
Van Dyke, Miami.
Have not seen. I've heard that one's not going well.
Yeah, Hendon Hooker, Tennessee.
Probably a guy or 2 out there, but I think those 3 guys, and then I think it's wide open.
So he could definitely end up at the end of the first round. Like John Schneider's like, man, I love you. And he's like, but you're not at the end of the first round, John. You're drafting 4th.
I'll trade back 7 times, accumulate 8 second-round picks. Yes. This has been a dream of mine ever since I drafted Russell. That I know I can get a franchise quarterback outside of the top 20 picks. It is my dream to have multiple top 20 picks and trade them back 7 times and accumulate 85 picks.
And get them at 33. First pick of the second round, John Schneider takes Cam Ward.
John Schneider somehow has Cam Ward and 14 second-rounders the next 3 years.
That would be an all-time dick on the table, balls on the table.
But like you said, he's going to love one of these guys. The question is just who. And he's going to not like
he'll hate somebody other people love.
I'd be a little surprised if he doesn't like Levis, right? Big, strong, high character guy. Like I heard people really like Levis, like the guy. He's just a guy's guy. Like people like him.
They showed him like his dad was a football player. His mom played like tennis at Yale or something. They were talking about it on the broadcast the other day. I think his mom went to an Ivy League school.
He's got a big arm.
Yeah. Tough. I mean, 2 fumbles, but one of them was just the one fumble on a scramble play. Was just
actually pretty good. I mean, obviously he's not eligible now, but he'll be a guy drawing a lot of interest as Dart next year.
Yeah.
You want to hear my take?
Lane to Alabama.
Lane to the Commanders.
Oh, that's interesting.
No franchise feels more lifeless and more just like something cool. Tell me you don't hire Lane Kiffin just to like.
I like that. They would. I mean, like a good franchise wouldn't do it, even though Lane's clearly a good coach. Yeah.
Doesn't he feel like he's got the Commanders written all over him?
Now, they did just hire was it a president this year who didn't hire Ron? Or is it, he's not the GM, the new guy they hired, or is he the GM? Mayhew's there. I think it was a president they just hired.
I think Ron's kind of the boss there. I mean,
so Lane would get full control.
Why not?
And Lane would be like, I love, Will Levis. We're going to take him or whoever he likes.
I feel like Lane's next head coaching job is in the National Football League.
I like that because he can't get a college job that he wants, right? He can't, no one's giving him like,
if you're him, you're only leaving to like 4 or 5 jobs, right?
I don't know. I mean, I think you probably feel like, how long can you be at Ole Miss? Can you be?
But I'm saying, like, if Alabama, Ohio State, Texas, like you'd really USC, like some of these jobs aren't coming open. So
no, but I mean, he'd leave for Miami. I bet he'd leave for Florida State. He'd leave for.
Would he leave for Florida State?
Maybe not Ole Miss. I don't know. I think he'd leave for Miami.
I just don't know if it gets any better at Ole Miss than he's having right now, this little run.
I agree with you. I'm just saying that's why there's probably more than five jobs he'd leave for.
Well, I had heard through the grapevine.
Sark.
he wanted the Oregon job, and they just
Yeah,
wouldn't really sniff back.
He'd leave for Oregon. He'd leave for I'm
We
with you.
tried. They wouldn't call him
That's what
back.
I'm saying. My point is, there's more than 5 jobs he would leave for. That's my point. And so if his net is actually kind of wide and no one is hiring him, then this is me agreeing with your theory that the Washington football team could be his next team, and then Wentz will be on the Niners.
What about the Dallas Cowboys? They wouldn't hire
feel
him.
like Steven would talk Jerry out of it, but Jerry would want to do it.
How about this? Dennis Allen, one and done. Saints. Lane, Bourbon Street.
Doesn't feel like a match organizationally with Lane, does it?
You're saying they're actually a little buttoned up for being in the South?
Yeah, like older ownership group.
Sneaky, a little stiffer than you think.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Because ideally, they would hire like Dion.
The Saints?
The Saints, like somebody.
Could they hire Dion? Everyone keeps acting like he's going to go college. What if the Saints offered him the job?
That'd be pretty awesome.
I actually think that's pretty genius. I love that. What about Dion to the Saints, Lane to the Commanders?
NFL's getting more interesting by the second.
How cool would the picture be? I think Dion coaches on a stool because of his foot.
Oh, it's not. Is he never going to be 100%?
Well, I mean, he's missing a toe. I don't know if he can stand up consistently.
Oh, it is a long time to stand. But I would think
maybe he can stand. Maybe he just can't stand for long. I did see a picture early on in the season. He was on a stool. I don't know if you can coach on a stool like Power 5.
Basketball coaches do it. Nobody has a hard time with it.
Less guys getting tackled on the sideline, though, in basketball.
Well, there was the one coach, remember, who was sitting on the chair because he popped his Achilles.
Oh, yeah. The dad.
Yeah, the dad. Well, it's school that wears blue, not Seton Hall. But
his kid went to the Celtics.
One of those.
Remember, didn't his kid hit the game winner?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. In like the first round.
Yeah.
They had a little run. They got to the Sweet 16.
Like a couple years he's been in the tournament. That guy.
Lane to the Chargers. The Chargers don't deserve Lane. That would make them too cool.
But they deserve Sean Payton?
Maybe I just need to get over my Dean. I don't even have a personal hatred toward Dean. I just feel like he just doesn't deserve success.
Yeah, you don't want cheap people unsuccessful people to fall at bass backwards, as people like to say, into success.
But it's like also I don't want Herbert to just suffer.
Right. You want to get the most out of Justin Herbert. John, quickly, let me give you a quick preview here. The Steelers-Bills line, it's the biggest line in the NFL this week. It's 14 points.
They don't like Kenny Pickett at Buffalo?
I don't like Kenny Pickett at Buffalo. Raiders, a week from Monday at the Chiefs. You want to guess the line on that one?
I'll go 5.5 Chiefs. Am I way too low?
Not only are you too low, the line opened higher than that. It opened at 6. It's now 7.5.
I wouldn't bet that game because I just don't trust the Raiders. I would take the Raiders in that spot. How about you?
Not crazy.
Feels like a lot of people are going to hammer the Chiefs, and all of a sudden it's going to be a tighter game.
Yeah.
You know what I feel? And I know this for a fact. I heard the Chiefs' practices last year were like Super Bowl part 2. Like they wanted revenge for Todd Bowles and that team embarrassing them.
Last week. Oh, I got you.
I'm saying that Andy Mahomes and the group of guys that played in that Super Bowl treated that fucking thing like it was their last game they were ever going to play. They said it was the best.
That way they broke out like some trick plays and stuff.
They came and you could just see, I think Andy slept a total of like 7 hours all week. They say Mahomes wasn't even talking. Remember, Mahomes kind of got just destroyed in that game. They treated that thing like they would have won that game 80-0 if they could have. They wanted that thing so bad. So here's my point. It's pretty clear the Chiefs are going to make the playoffs, right? They're going to be fine. When you peak that high for a game that like meant that much, I get it's Monday Night Football, but it's the Raiders. Gruden's gone, so you don't have the same motivation of the buses going around the stadium. Do they take the Raiders quite as seriously?
No.
Like Andy and Josh, like what does Andy care?
Now that you turn on the film and they're like, there's Devontae.
I'm not saying you don't take their players here. I'm just saying like when you peak,
you can't match that. Yeah.
No way.
I agree. A buddy of mine was at that game and he texted to ask if I watched it. And I said, yeah, I watched. You didn't see my meme that I made? Andy Reid. So I sent him this. Andy Reid drawing on the guy's face, but I wrote defenses. And his reply was, instead of defenses, you should have just written Todd Bowles.
Do you know why did they cast this random fat actor to play an offensive lineman on Andy's team?
Oh,
Why not?
is that what it is? He's an offensive lineman? I didn't even realize. He looks way too old to be a player on the team.
Well, clearly, because Andy said he's drawing the mustaches on the players. So, like, that guy has to be a player, not like an assistant O-line coach.
How they picked that guy. You're right. I didn't even realize he was supposed to be a player.
Would it have been funnier if they would have used Kelsey right there?
Yes.
Do you think they could they have kept a straight face though? That was
Kelsey not laugh for like all the takes. Yeah.
I think that's one of the most incredible cameos by a coach.
I'm going to get to the bottom of this. It's such a great line.
That was good.
We'll finish with this. Brandon says, besides Ward, is Hufunga the best safety the Niners have drafted in his second season as a starter? Besides Ward, is Hufunga the best safety the Niners have drafted?
Yeah, running lot.
Since running a lot. Hufunga. Who are other candidates? Tarvarius Moore, Marcel Harris, Jaquaski Tart. Is he already better than Kwaski Tart? I mean, he's better right now than Kwaski Tart.
Merton Hanks was drafted in 91.
Merton Hanks. I'm going to give Merton the edge.
Didn't make Pro Bowl though till 94, so it took him a minute.
Oh, so year 2 maybe Hufunga's ahead of schedule? Is that what you're saying?
Our man Merton Hanks too, 5th round pick, so some similarities. I mean, I don't think people were acting like he was going to be some stud.
God, what year did you say they drafted him?
91.
Oh, okay. Maybe because some of these guys, a lot of guys aren't listed as safeties for like a bunch of years, so maybe they're listed as DBs. So I'm missing some guys, but well, they didn't draft Deshaun Goldson, did they? I thought he came from somewhere. I thought he came from like
Whitner definitely came from the Bills.
Cleveland or something. Oh yeah, Niners did draft him. Good call, Eric. Goldson out of UW back in 07. Good pull.
A little before my time. Don't remember that one.
A little before my time. All right.
You were watching the Huskies in 06?
Well, was that I very, very clearly remember the Locker 1-win season. I remember that year. Maybe not.
Imagine having one win with a number 1 overall pick. I guess he wasn't number 1. I guess
he didn't come out that year, I don't think.
He didn't. He was the 10th pick.
And the thing that year was, I'm pretty sure Washington State went winless that year, and they play in the last game of the year. So it was a rivalry game with 2 winless teams. Imagine what that was like. Like how much was on the line.
Yeah, you don't want to go winless.
And the name of that rivalry is the Apple. They call the game the Apple Cup. And so the joke always was that one was called the Crapple Cup because both teams were crappy.
Didn't Cal football Goff's first year win and Sonny Dykes' first year win one game?
Yeah, and it was an FCS win, I'm pretty sure. They won like week 1 or week 2 against
They lost every Pac-12 game.
I think so.
So they probably would have got Stanford had to be really good then. They must have got destroyed. Yeah, Sonny Dykes went 1-11, 0-9.
And they beat Portland State. That was who they beat. Yeah. How many coaches have gone winless in FBS football in a season and then had like the high highs that Sonny Dykes has?
He's rolling right now, guy. Well, his last couple years at SMU aren't quite COVID year. He went 7-3, but even last year 8-4.
Was there like some good teams in there that he beat?
His awesome year 19, they went 10-3. Right now he's 4-0. His record at SMU was 30-18. It's not like he was having some Urban Meyer run.
And he got beat 48-14 by Cincinnati last year.
They clearly just bet on the guy, bet on the fit. Smart.
Yeah, I mean, I would say this too. Like,
safe.
He had SMU in the top 20 for 3 straight years. Like that's a pretty good resume, right?
I think too, if you just remove Cal, the 2 years before he got the job, like at a school, like that you shouldn't win that. He went 8-5 and 9-3 at La Tech.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. He didn't get to 8. I mean, whatever. Say what you want. 8 wins at Cal. Actually, I bet if we looked historically, if you can win 8 wins at Cal, it's a good year. I mean,
what would Wilcox do for an 8-5 season?
Well, right now he's
2-3.
No, he beat Arizona, so
I would, lost to Washington State, lost to Notre Dame, beat UNLV, he's 3-2.
3-2.
Who do they got this week?
They might be on a bye this week.
I mean, are we sure? Are they a bowl team?
Yeah,
I guess they'll beat Stanford.
Well, they play Colorado after the bye, so they should win that game.
They'll beat Stanford. They'll beat Colorado, but they're not
5.
beating Oregon or Oregon State or Washington
State. They beat Oregon. I mean, they could. They just have to win one of Washington, Oregon, SC, Oregon State, UCLA. They just got to win one of those games.
They could lose them all, and they'll be underdogs in them all.
Could lose them all, but in this league, historically, you don't lose all those games.
Yeah, Wilcox is good for a random, damn, we beat UCLA by 20.
Yeah, I mean, they beat Oregon State last year, and Oregon State was pretty good last year, too. Oregon State's quarterbacks, John, they've thrown 4 interceptions in each of the last 2 games.
How many picks did the kid just throw against Utah?
Well, 2, and then the backup threw 2. So they threw 8, but they threw 4.
Oh, they benched the starter that beat Fresno State?
He got hurt. After he threw 2, including a pick 6.
All I wanted Jonathan Smith was to land Jackson Dart, but he wouldn't return his phone calls.
I know. So
hard to blame him.
Yeah, I mean, we got a lot going on this week. A lot of football this week.
Birthday week, bro.
Birthday week. So this will be the last show because
see you.
I'm not coming up for air till Monday next week.
See you after the Panthers game, fellas.
Kidding. All right, anything else, Dad? Or you want to keep going? We can keep going. It's only 10:30 Pacific. Happy birthday to me in some time zones. All right, later, everybody.